Chapter 158. Despite Song Qingshu's repeated protests, he couldn't win against Invincible Yi's indifference. He had no choice but to put on Manager Yang's clothes. Song Qingshu sniffed the clothes with a look of disgust. These clothes are that gay. He looked up at Invincible Yi's face and changed his words. That Yang something used to wear them? Handsome and tall, just like Manager Yang back in the day. Invincible Yi nodded in satisfaction. He didn't seem to have any intention of answering his question. There's no smell. It should be new. Song Qingshu had to keep hinting at himself. It was quite boring watching Invincible Yi embroider all day. Song Qingshu yawned and rambled on. Why doesn't anyone come here all day? This is my place of solitude. Without an order, no matter who from the cult comes in, they will die. Invincible Yi seemed to be tired from embroidering. She rested her chin on her hand and pretended to sleep on the couch. Song Qingshu saw the curves of her waist and said gloomily, "Are you really a man lying down like this? There's a man in front of you. So what?" Invincible Yi opened her narrow phoenix eyes and looked at him indifferently. "Aren't you afraid that I'll take advantage of you?" Song Qingshu asked in surprise. "What advantage can I take if you look at me a few times? Even if you can't help but want to touch me, it's fine. You can't beat me anyway." Invincible Yi yawned in boredom and closed her eyes again. "You make me feel humiliated. A man's pride is very valuable." Song Qingshu glared at her. "Really? So what if I humiliate you? Bite me." Invincible Yi's red lips moved slightly, and she looked at him with a faint smile. Her right hand was deliberately playing with a shiny embroidery needle. Looking at her moist red lips, Song Qingshu really wanted to pounce on her and bite her. But after considering the strength of the two of them, he gave up on this tempting idea. "Don't your subordinates know you're a girl? How old are you, Miss Dongfang?" Song Qingshu asked a lot of questions like a machine gun, but unfortunately for him, Invincible Yi was not interested in answering. He did not seem to be discouraged. A thought appeared in his head, and he asked another question. "By the way, there's something I've been wondering about for a long time. What's your name?" This time, Invincible Yi did not ignore him. She looked at him strangely and asked, "Don't you know?" Invincible Yi, Song Qingshu, clicked his tongue and shook his head in disbelief. "I don't believe that any parents in the world would give their children such a cool name. How dare you call the sect leader by his name?" At that moment, a clear female voice came from behind him. Song Qingshu was stunned and thought, "Isn't this Invincible Yi's forbidden ground? Why would someone else dare to come in?" When he turned his head, he saw a young girl who was about the age of 156. She was about 13 or 14 years old and wore an emerald green robe. Her skin was snow white, and her face was delicate and cute. She still had a bit of baby fat on her face, but her expression was exceptionally solemn. When she arrived at the small house, she respectfully half knelt down and bowed. Fei Fei pays respect to cult master. "Get up." Dongfang Booby waved his left sleeve gently, and the girl sensed a gentle presence lifting her up. "Has the internal conflict in Five Venoms been settled?" Dongfang Booby asked. The girl was about to speak, but she looked at Song Qingshu and hesitated. "There's no harm in saying it. He's one of us." Dongfang Booby's words caused Song Qingshu to be so excited that tears fell down his cheeks. Just when he was about to express his joy, he suddenly realized that he was being a little too shameless, and he immediately put on a stern expression. After getting Invincible Dongfang's promise, the young lady replied, "The two most powerful sects in the Five Poison cult have always been the Lan family and the He family. Recently, a genius, He Tais Ho, appeared in the He family. Not only is he talented in martial arts, but he's also the most talented in poison among all the previous family heads. His reputation is gradually overpowering the Lan family. This time, He Tais Ho, because cult leader killed Yuan Qingji, and she has always admired Yuan Qingji. She betrayed the Lan family and forced the Lan family to retreat. Not only is she incompetent, she can only help the Indigo Phoenix to stabilize the situation and form stalemate. He Tais Ho." Dongfang Booby recalled the time when she came to visit him at Blackwood Cliff. "That girl is not bad, but I didn't expect her to betray me for a man. She is skilled in both martial arts and poison. Fei Fei, you are still young, so it's normal that you can't beat her. I sent you down the mountain to train you, so you don't have to worry about it. Thank you, sect leader master. The girl's face showed a hint of joy. You two are master and disciple. Why are you bowing so often? Why are you so distant? Song Qing couldn't stand it anymore. He walked in front of the girl and circled her a few times. You call yourself Fei Fei, and you are from Sun Moon sect. You must be Chu Yang's granddaughter, Chu Fian? The girl looked at him in surprise. Dongfeng Booby frowned too. How do you know her name? Song Qing didn't answer. Instead, he fell into his memories. In his previous life, when he watched the 1996 version of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, he felt that the most pitiful character was this weird little girl. She was killed by Fei Bin from Song Mountain sect, not long after she appeared. If that was all, it wouldn't have left such a deep impression on him. That chubby little girl actress from back then had actually starred as Shi Feishuan in Twin of Brothers 8 years later. The contrast between that fresh and refined girl and the chubby little girl from back then had really blinded Song Qing. He exclaimed, "A girl changes 18 times between childhood and womanhood." The ancients didn't lie. Dongfeng Booby didn't really care about this question. Seeing that Song Qing didn't answer, he put aside. Instead, he raised his hand and threw a token into Chu Fian's hands. Fei Fei, take the Blackwood token and go to Dali again. Mobilize all the resources that can be mobilized to help Indigo Phoenix. You must not let 5 Venoms sect be swallowed by Hitai's Ho. Dongfeng Booby didn't know why, but he kept feeling that his heart was beating faster recently. When his martial arts had reached a certain realm, he had a keen sense of hidden dangers. In addition, his injuries hadn't recovered much. That was why, for the first time ever, he agreed to let Song Qing stay and help her. This time, he subconsciously sent Chu Fian away because he had the thought of protecting her. She didn't know how big of an impact this one thought would have on the future. In the next few days, the two of them would chat sometimes. But most of the time, it was Song Qing who was bored watching Dongfeng Booby embroider. As for the night, the scene that Song Qing had been looking forward to seeing a man and a woman alone in a room didn't happen. Once night fell, Dongfeng Booby ran off somewhere, leaving Song Qing alone in the empty room. Just like that, a purple-robed messenger came in to report. Reporting to sect leader, Elder Shangwan has already caught the traitor Xiang Wentian. He is now waiting outside for sect leader to summon him. Chapter 159. Soon, a few people walked in with a stretcher. Song Qing looked carefully and saw that the person on the stretcher was dressed in white. His appearance was thin, and his chin was sparse, and had a long, grizzled beard that hung in front of his chest. There were many bloodstains on his clothes and beard, and he looked like he was seriously injured. Cult Master, you are wise and benevolent. You have revived the sacred cult and brought glory to the common people. I, Shangwan Yun, an elder of the White Tiger Hall, kowtow to Cult Master. A person dressed in an elder's robe kowtowed. Dongfeng Booby did not express his opinion and asked indifferently, "Why didn't Elder Jia come back with you?" Reporting to sect leader, Elder Jia and I were ordered by sect leader to capture the traitor Xiang Wentian. Unfortunately, Xiang Wentian's martial arts were too strong, so Elder Jia sacrificed himself to give me the chance to severely injure Xiang Wentian. Shangwan Yin didn't dare to tell the truth. Jiabu had already died in the hands of him and Xiang Wentian because he didn't join Run Wuxing's side. This time, he went to the Blackwood Cliff with everything he had. Once he succeeded, he would be rewarded by Run Wuxing, but when he thought of Dongfeng Booby's prestige, he still felt a little scared. Who are these people behind you? Dongfeng Booby was too lazy to listen to his nonsense and interrupted him. Song Qing stood at the side obediently, as if he was the real chief steward Yang. He secretly looked at the people Dongfeng Booby mentioned. He saw a tall man with a long face. His face was snow white and without a hint of blood. Although he kept his head down, he could still see that his face was terrifyingly pale, like a zombie that had just come out of the grave. Judging from his age, he should be Run Wuxing. Beside him stood a young man with a long face, sharp eyebrows, and thin lips. He had a heroic spirit between his brows. He should be Ling Hucheng. There was a low-level follower standing close to him. Her skin was so white that it was almost transparent, and there was a faint layer of redness. Who else could it be other than the cross-dressing Saint Nun, Reninging? Since Song Qingshu could tell, so could Dongfang Bubi. She sneered and said, "Cult Master Run, I thought you were a hero, but I didn't expect you to be a coward." Ren Wuxing threw his head back and let out a long laugh when he saw that the other party had exposed their identities. His low-ranked disciple clothes fell off inch by inch as he looked at Dongfang Bubi and said angrily, "Dongfang Bubi, you didn't think that this day would come when you locked me at the bottom of the West Lake, did you?" Xiang Wentian also climbed up from the stretcher and drew his weapon from the stretcher with Ling Hucheng. He stood by Ren Wuxing's side, and with solemn expressions, he guarded against Dongfang Bubi. "I'll let you enjoy the rest of your life in Hangzhou's West Lake. As the saying goes, there is heaven above and Suzhou and Hangzhou below. The scenery of West Lake is famous in the world, and Lone Mountain Plum Manor is the best place in West Lake. I didn't expect that not only would you not be grateful, you would even hate me." Dongfang Bubi shook his head, as if he was filled with regret. "Pooh!" Ren Wuxing was so angry that he laughed. "So you locked me at the bottom of the West Lake and didn't let me see the light of day?" Dongfang Bubi said, "At least I didn't kill you, right?" Chapter 157. The conscience of the industry. If the four friends of Jiang didn't send you water, would you be able to last 10 days? Ren Wuxing snorted coldly. "Don't think that I don't know what you're planning. For the past 10 years, you've asked Black and White Chess to use all kinds of methods to deceive me. Naturally, you won't let me die. Cult Master Ren, you're as perceptive as ever. I really admire you. I didn't expect you to see through me right from start." Although Dongfang Bubi said that she admired him, her expression was normal. She probably didn't think that Black and White Chess could really deceive Ren Wuxing. "If I was really perceptive, I wouldn't have let a traitor like you usurp the power of my divine religion. If we're talking about admiration, you're the one I admire the most." Ren Wuxing said through gritted teeth. "Cult Master Run, you're too humble. That year, you also realized that something was wrong. That's why you imparted the Sunflower Treasure Book to me with bad intentions. You wanted to numb me, but you didn't expect me to make the first move and succeed in one strike." Dongfang Bubi couldn't hide the pride in his voice when he talked about what happened in the past. "Ha ha! Speaking of the Sunflower Treasure Book, looking at your androgynous appearance, I'm afraid that you've really practiced it." Ren Wuxing laughed. "You wanted to practice a divine skill and castrate yourself. Dongfang Bubi, you really can do it." His voice revealed endless mockery and disdain. Song Qingshu's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He looked at Dongfang Bubi and thought, "I've clearly touched her soft breasts. In today's world where flat breasts are rampant, it's rare to see the conscience of the industry. Could it be that I really have to take off her pants to determine her gender?" Dongfang Bubi looked at him disdainfully. "How can a vulgar person like you understand the principles of the treasure book?" Ren Wuxing suddenly frowned. "Dongfang Bubi, I haven't seen you for more than 10 years. Why are you getting younger? Could it be that the Sunflower Treasure Book really contains ancient cultivation techniques like the rumors say? Cult Master Run, if you're interested, you can castrate yourself. I'll let you practice it on account of the kindness you showed me when I imparted my skills to you." Dongfang Bubi smiled. "Bob." Ren Wuxing scolded, "I don't want to become an androgynous monster." Dongfang Bubi's eyes turned cold. The crowd only saw a pink object flash in front of them, as if his body had moved. Then, with a clang, the saber in Shangwan Yun's hand fell to the ground. Then, his body swayed a few times before he suddenly fell forward and prostrated on the ground. From then on, he didn't move anymore. Although he only fell for a moment, Ren Wuxing and the other experts saw clearly that there was a small red up between his eyebrows, his temples, his nose, and his philtrum. There was blood oozing out of each dot. It was obvious that he was stabbed by Dongfang Bubi's embroidery needle. Ren Wuxing and the others were shocked and couldn't help but take a few steps back. Ling Hu Chong pulled Ying with his left hand and stood in front of her. For a moment, the room was silent, and no one breathed loudly. Ren Wuxing slowly pulled out his sword and said, "I didn't expect the Sunflower Treasure Book to be so powerful." Dongfang Bubi had already returned to his original position and was calmly playing with the embroidery needle in his hand. Shangguan Yun was dreaming of becoming a dragon by relying on you. But I didn't expect you to use him as a scapegoat without hesitation in such a critical moment. Ren Wuxing was careless just now, and Dongfang Bubi had already attacked him. His sword was still in its sheath, and he couldn't defend himself. He could only grab Shangguan Yun and use him as a shield to withstand Dongfang Bubi's lightning attack. The pitiful Shangguan Yun thought that he would be safer if he stayed by Ren Wuxing's side, but he didn't expect that he would die a wrongful death right from the start. Ren Wuxing's face was slightly red. Fortunately, other than Dongfang Bubi, the rest of the people here were people close to him, so he didn't have to worry about what happened today spreading. Chapter 160. Song Qing-shu experienced what it meant to be attacked, even when he was just lying down. But when he remembered the scene Ling Hu Chong described just now, he found that it was pretty good. Dongfang Bubi did not have such a good feeling when he heard it. His face turned red, and suddenly a red figure moved, and an embroidery needle went to stab Ling Hu Chong. Ling Hu Chong had said those words to make her angry, but when he saw her swing her sleeve slightly, he thrust his sword at her throat. That thrust was incredibly fast, and to others, Dongfang Bubi looked as if he was going to crash into the tip of the sword. But at that moment, Ling Hu Chong felt a slight pain on his left cheek, and the long sword in his hand swung to the left. In truth, Dongfang Bubi's attack speed was incredibly fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already stabbed Ling Hu Chong's face with a needle, but due to his old injury, his movements were slower than usual. He knew that if he stabbed Ling Hu Chong with a needle, Ling Hu Chong would definitely die, but he would also be heavily injured. He could only pull his arm back and use the needle to block Ling Hu Chong's slash. 9 solitary swords, which attack the enemy when they must save themselves. What is your relationship with Feng Xingyang? Dongfang Bubi asked while smoothing out his robes. I am Ling Hu Chong of Mount Hua, and today I will take revenge for great martial Uncle Feng. Ling Hu Chong had just recovered from his shock. He knew that he had run into a powerful enemy he had never seen before in his life. If he gave her the time to attack, he would immediately lose his life. He immediately thrust his sword 4 times, and all of them were aimed at her vitals. If Feng Xingyang isn't my opponent, then what can your half-baked 9 solitary swords do? Dongfang Bubi snickered. He pushed to the left, right, up, and down, parrying all 4 of Ling Hu Chong's sword thrusts. Ling Hu Chong focused his gaze on her attacks. Her embroidery needle was parried everywhere, and there was not a single opening around her. At that moment, he would definitely not allow her to counterattack. He immediately shouted and swung his long sword at her head. Dongfang Bubi grabbed the embroidery needle with her right thumb and index finger and lifted it up to block the incoming sword. The long sword could not cut down. Ling Hu Chong felt a slight numbness in his arm, but he saw a red shadow flash, and something seemed to be heading toward his left eye. Right now, it was too late to block and too late to dodge. He thought his life was over. Ren Wuxing and Xiang Wentian saw that the situation wasn't right, so one of them raised his sword and the other swung his whip, and they attacked at the same time. Dongfang Bubi frowned, but he could only stop and defend himself. The 3 great elites in the world worked together to fight against him, and their momentum was incredibly powerful, but Dongfang Bubi held an embroidery needle between his fingers and weaved his way between the 3 of them. He moved forward and retreated as fast as lightning, and he did not show any signs of losing. The trio's attacks were fierce, and they went straight for Dongfang Bubi's vitals. But her figure was like a ghost, drifting here and there like a wisp of smoke. The tips of their swords and whips were always several inches away from her body. Suddenly, they heard Xiang Wentian cry out, followed by Ling Hu Chong's hey. Both of them were hit by the needles one after another. Although Ren Wuxing's absorbing stars technique was profound, Dongfang Bubi's movements were extremely fast, so it was difficult for him to touch him. Secondly, the weapon he used was an embroidery needle, so he couldn't absorb any internal energy from it. After fighting for a while, Ren Wuxing also cried out, and his chest and throat were hit by the needles. It was a pity that Dongfang Bubi had two ultimate skills. Dongfang Bubi was injured by Feng Qingyang's innate sword qi, and his injuries kept coming back. His movements were much more difficult than usual, and he didn't have the confidence that he would be able to block the other two great elites' attacks once he infused his internal energy into his opponent's body. Therefore, although Ren Wuxing and the other two were repeatedly hit by the needles, they weren't heavily injured. Ren Wuxing, Xiang Wentian, and Ling Huchong shouted repeatedly, and their voices were filled with anger and anxiety. The three of them infused their internal energy into their weapons, and the wind howled loudly, but Dongfang Bubi didn't make a single sound. Ren Yingying saw everything clearly from the side, and she knew that if this continued for a long time, the three of them would be exhausted, and they would definitely die under Dongfang Bubi's needles. She was anxious, but she knew that if she went up, she would only be a hindrance and wouldn't be of any use. She glanced over and saw that Song Qingshu was standing not far away, and he was watching the fight attentively, and his face was filled with concern. Ren Yingying had a thought, and she slowly walked over. Song Qingshu saw that Dongfang Bubi was surrounded by three great elites, and although the situation was a little dangerous, he was still in an invincible position for a short period of time. He wasn't in a hurry to attack, and instead, he carefully observed their martial arts. Noticing that Ren Yingying was sneaking over, Song Qingshu was shocked, but he quickly realized what she was planning. He hesitated for a moment, but didn't make any move. Ren Yingying suddenly raised the short sword in her left hand and placed it on Song Qingshu's neck and scolded, "Quick, tell Dongfang Bubi to stop." Song Qingshu raised his hands and pretended to yield. Okay, I'll call. Ren Yingying was worried that Dongfang Bubi would attack too quickly, so she slowly moved behind Song Qingshu and used the tip of her sword to push against his back, so that he would be in front of her, in case Dongfang Bubi suddenly pounced on her. By the way, Beauty, how do you want me to call you? Or do you want me to call you obscenely? Unexpectedly, Song Qingshu suddenly turned his head and looked at her with a smile. You're courting death. Ren Yingying's pretty face turned cold, and she swung her sword to stab Song Qingshu's thigh. Song Qingshu felt that his acting was almost over, and his figure flashed, and he dodged the attack. Ren Yingying was stunned, and her waist went numb. Song Qingshu had already sealed the numbing acupoint, and her body went limp, and she fell backwards. Beauty, why are you so careless? Song Qingshu hugged her delicate body and blew a breath into her ear. Ren Yingying's neck suddenly turned red, half from embarrassment and the other half from anger. All these years, she had always been the high and mighty saintess, and her status in the Sun Moon sect was extraordinary. Naturally, no one dared to disobey her. Usually, when she was with Ling Huchong, she would be embarrassed and angry for a long time if he said something frivolous. She had never endured such naked teasing from Song Qingshu. Song Qingshu's warm and fragrant body was in his arms, and he only felt a strange fragrance assailing his nostrils. He felt that her skin was also ice-cold, and for a moment he actually forgot to speak. Shameless. Let me go. Ren Yingying was worried that Ling Huchong and the others would see and distract them, so she purposely bit her lip and said in a low voice, Let you go? How can I bear to? Song Qingshu laughed. As the saying goes, the wheel of fortune turns. You forced me to scream just now, and now it's my turn to make you scream. What are you doing? What do you want? Ren Yingying's beautiful face suddenly turned pale. Song Qingshu said, Nothing much. I just want you to scream in pain and distract your father or your brother Chong. Don't even think about it. Ren Yingying knew that they were already at a disadvantage, and if they were distracted because of her, they would immediately fall into invincible Dongfang's hands. You forced me to do this. Do you know what martial arts I'm best at? Song Qingshu rolled his eyes and asked in her ear. How would I know? Feeling the breath he exhaled, Ren Yingying's delicate skin was covered in a layer of tiny goosebumps. I know quite a lot of martial arts, and the one I'm best at is the blood-cleansing silver spear technique. Of course, it's a little inconvenient to use it in this situation. But I have another martial art, the breast-grabbing dragon claw. I can let you evaluate it, miss. Song Qingshu's smile was full of wickedness. Could it be that you're from the Shaolin Temple? Before Ren Yingying could finish, she suddenly realized the vulgar meaning in her words and immediately shut her mouth in embarrassment. Chapter 161. Seeing that Song Qingshu's hand was getting closer, Ren Yingying's breathing became faster and faster. But even so, she still gritted her teeth and refused to make sound. You'd rather be touched by me than scream? This time, it was Song Qingshu's turn to be depressed. He didn't know whether to press down or not. Feel as much as you want. When my father and brother Chong kill Dongfang Booby, I'll definitely tear you into pieces. Ren Yingying's pale face was filled with hatred. Tear me into pieces? Song Qingshu was in a daze. How many women had said that already? Was he being too casual with women? This wasn't the modern era that was open and free. Forget it. I'll do it if you don't want to. After hesitating for a long time, Song Qingshu couldn't press down anymore. He opened his mouth and shouted, I say, Old Man Ren, Ling Hu Chong, Xiang Wentian, or whatever, Ren Yingying is in my hands now. If you don't surrender, I'll take off one of her clothes on the count of 3. Let's see how long she can last. Oh, by the way, beauty, how many clothes are you wearing today? Song Qingshu lowered his head and asked Ren Yingying. Before Ren Yingying could answer, Ren Wuxing and the others were already furious and started cursing. How can a gentleman kidnap a woman? A gentleman? Song Qingshu laughed self-deprecatingly. Cult Master Ren, you are the dignified cult master of the devil cult, yet you keep saying that you are a gentleman. Aren't you going to wallow in the mire with those famous upright sects? Father, Brother Chong, don't fall into his trap. He won't dare to take off my clothes. Ren Yingying saw that Song Qingshu didn't really touch her just now. She knew that Song Qingshu was just trying to scare her. Is that so? I feel like my professionalism has been insulted. With a crisp sound, the thin muslin dress that Ren Yingying wore was ripped off by Song Qingshu. TSK, 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 it smells good. Song Qingshu brought it to his nose and sniffed it. Young hero Ling Hu, I'm afraid you haven't even undressed Miss Ren yet. You didn't expect me to beat you to it. I'm really sorry. As he spoke, he placed his hand on Ren Yingying's lapel and pretended to pull it off. Ren Yingying couldn't hold it in any longer. Her feminine instincts made her scream. Ling Huchong's eyes burned with rage when he saw this. He ignored Dongfang Booby's attack and swung his sword to thrust forward. To an elite like Dongfang Booby, even the slightest opening was enough to be fatal. Besides, Ling Huchong's defense was wide open at that moment. Dongfang Booby pushed his jade-white palm gently against the center of his back. Ling Huchong coughed up a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground dejectedly. He tried to stand up a few times, but he fell again and again. Because an opening appeared on Ling Huchong's side, Xiang Wentian and Ren Wuxing were also hit. Xiang Wentian's chest was pierced by Dongfang Booby's needle, and he felt his entire body go numb. His whip fell to the ground, and all his strength disappeared. He had already lost the ability to fight. Ren Wuxing's injuries were even more severe. When Dongfang Booby's attack landed on Ling Huchong's back, Ren Wuxing finally found an opportunity to strike her shoulder. He immediately activated absorbing stars, but Dongfang Booby shot a needle into his right eye. Ren Wuxing turned pale with fright. He withdrew his palm, and with a bang, his back crashed into the wall. With a cracking sound, half of the wall collapsed. If he hadn't retreated in time, the needle would have pierced his brain, and he would have died. Even so, his right eye was blind, and his face was covered in blood. He only had less than 30% of his combat power left. Dongfang Booby had heavily injured 3 top-class elites in an instant, and his shoulder had been sucked in by Ren Wuxing's absorbing star technique. True Qi instantly surged out of his body, and it was inevitable that his breathing would be chaotic. He thought that if Song Qingshu hadn't used a trick to distract the three people, the price he would have paid today would have been much more than this. Dongfang Booby looked at Song Qingshu and was about to speak when the roof suddenly shattered. A black figure with a ghost mask came crashing down from above. Dongfang Booby had used up all his strength, and he hadn't gathered any new strength yet. He hastily raised his palm to block the attack, and blood gushed out of his mouth. The black figure was like a maggot, and he kicked Dongfang Booby's chest again and again. Song Qingshu didn't have the mood to hold Run Yingying hostage. He quickly used traceless steps in sand and rushed over. With one hand, he grabbed Dongfang Booby's slim waist and placed her behind him. With the other, he used Arrogant Dragon's regrets to fight against the black figure. 18 Dragons Subduing Palms was known as the fiercest in the world, and Arrogant Dragon's regrets was also one of the most powerful moves in the world. Song Qingshu was confident that if he fought against the black figure head-on, he would definitely be heavily injured if he did not retreat. But against his expectations, the black figure flipped in the air and did not dodge. He just extended his palm to receive the attack. When their palms clashed, Song Qingshu felt that his palm force had been guided by an incredibly sticky and gentle force, and he missed. The black figure's other palm pressed against his chest without a sound, and Song Qingshu instantly felt as if he had been struck by lightning. In the blink of an eye, he was heavily injured. Fortunately, after Song Qingshu blocked the black figure's attack for a while, Dongfang Booby finally recovered. He swung his arm, and dozens of embroidery needles shot into the black figure's acupressure points. The demon-masked man had to stop. His hands moved at varying speeds before he drew a huge circle in front of him. The air seemed to have frozen, and a wall of qi that could be seen with the naked eye appeared. Dongfang Booby's embroidery needles shot into the wall of qi, and after they entered it for half an inch, they could no longer move forward. The demon-masked man crossed his arms, and the dozens of embroidery needles shattered inch by inch before they fell to the ground. When he raised his head to look, the two of them had already escaped to the back of the mountain, while Dongfang Booby was shooting out needles. The demon-masked man had planned for a long time today. He knew that if he had not used Ren Wuxing and the others as a cover and successfully ambushed Dongfang Booby, it would have been almost impossible for him to get rid of Dongfang Booby. He knew very well the danger of letting the tiger return to the mountain, so he immediately chased after them. Song Qingshu carried Dongfang Booby and sprinted through the mountains. Dongfang Booby's injuries were much more serious than Song Qingshu's, and he was already in a semi-conscious state. After running for a while, he had no choice but to stop. It turned out that he was not familiar with the terrain of Blackwood Cliff, so he instinctively ran towards a secluded place. In the end, he was now facing a 100,000 feet tall cliff. Dongfang Booby slowly woke up as the cold wind blew at him from the top of the cliff. He looked around, and a bitter smile appeared at the corners of his lips. I didn't think that Dongfang Booby, who has roamed the world unrivaled, would lose my life in the hands of a rascal today. The leader of the Ming cult is not some small fry. Chapter 159. A Great Reversal Disciple. Song Qingshu's face was ashen as he turned his head to look at the path he had come from. Am I right, Zhang Wuji? The demon-masked man took off his mask, revealing a face with thick eyebrows and handsome eyes, full of heroic spirit. It was the love rival of Song Qingshu's two souls, Zhang Wuji. Brother Song really has a good eye. Zhang Wuji looked at Song Qingshu in surprise. After we parted at the lion-slaying gathering, I didn't think that Brother Song would not only recover his meridian channels, but have also learned a high level of martial arts. When he thought of how he had pretended to treat his illness on Mount Shaoshi, but in reality, he had wanted to get close to Zhou Zhihua, Song Qingshu could not help but grit his teeth in hatred. The heavens have eyes. That's why they gave me a sliver of a chance. Why is Brother Song filled with hatred toward Wuji? Zhang Wuji looked at Song Qingshu in confusion, then quickly came to a realization. No wonder I thought Zhua's expression was very strange the last time I saw her. It looks like Brother Song already knows about the matter between me and her. Huh. Song Qing-shu scolded angrily. Don't speak as if there's really something between you and her. I wonder if she told you about one thing? What thing? Zhang Wuji was startled as expected. Chapter 162. Dongfang Bubi opened her charming phoenix eyes and sized up Song Qing-shu carefully. She opened her red lips and said, I never trust anyone. Just as Song Qing-shu was feeling disappointed, she changed the topic. But today, I can trust you once. Song Qing-shu was delighted. Later, if I do anything strange, don't panic. Once he finished speaking, he raised his head and looked at Zhang Wuji. He put on a victorious smile. Jiruo is already my woman. She has always been your wife. Zhang Wuji's voice came to an abrupt halt. He finally registered the meaning behind Song Qing-shu's words. He remembered that he and Zhou Jiruo had once wandered overseas and lived together on a lone island. They swore to never betray each other, and those words were still ringing in his ears. At that moment, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He stood there in a daze, and all he could see was white. He heard countless disorderly voices in his ears, but he did not know what the people around him were talking about. He suddenly snapped out of his daze, and Zhang Wuji stared at Song Qing-shu with a ferocious expression. Jiruo has never liked you, so why would she? Just now, I was fortunate enough to witness the despicable methods you used on Lady Ren. I believe that you must have used some despicable and shameless methods. That's just your wishful thinking. Jiruo is my wife. We're just having some fun in the bedroom. Is there a need for you to make such a big fuss out of nothing? Song Qing-shu knew that he was heavily injured right now, and it was not wise for him to continue provoking him. However, a man's nature made him unable to let go of any chance to destroy his rival in love. You're asking for death. Zhang Wuji changed his usual gentle image and pounced on him. Song Qing-shu unsheathed his wooden sword and charged forward. Right now, his power was incredibly great, and his attainments in his sword technique had almost returned to its original state. If he had fought a fair battle with Zhang Wuji, even though he would not be able to win against him, the difference between them would not be too great. However, it was a pity that in the beginning, in order to save Dongfang Bubi, he had to hold her with one hand and hastily face the enemy with one hand. His opponent's heaven and earth great shift shifted the force of his palm in a thin air, and he was then struck head-on by Zhang Wuji. Zhang Wuji possessed the 9 yang divine technique, and the strength of his inner force was probably one of the best in the world. Moreover, the heaven and earth great shift was best at stimulating the potential of a person's body. Therefore, he had almost crippled Song Qing-shu with one palm strike. Song Qing-shu only felt that the true qi in his body was in a mess, and he could only use his exquisite sword technique to fight with his opponent. However, before he could completely use his wooden sword, it would be shifted by Zhang Wuji's heaven and earth great shift. After a dozen or so moves, Song Qing-shu understood that if he continued to fight, he and Dongfang Bubi would only have a grievance on the spot. He swung his sword a few times and forced Zhang Wuji to retreat. He jumped to Dongfang Bubi's side and retreated to the edge of the cliff. Zhang Wuji was not in a hurry to chase after him, and only slowly pressed on. What? Has Brother Song already given up and is ready to jump off the cliff? Song Qing-shu knew the condition of his body, and now there was still the heavily injured Dongfang Bubi. Even if he used traceless sand, he would not be able to escape. He looked at the cold and windy cliff behind him and smiled bitterly at Dongfang Bubi. Why don't we jump off the cliff? That's fine. I, Dongfang Bubi, have lived my life unhindered. I would rather let the heavens take a slap to my face. I don't want to die in the hands of ordinary people. Dongfang Bubi knew that it would be difficult for her to escape today, and the dignity of a hero made her decide to end her own life without hesitation. That's not necessarily the case. Song Qing-shu stretched out his hand and wrapped it around Dongfang Bubi's waist and gently pulled her into his arms. It is said that in the world of martial arts, there is a rule that you will not die if you jump off a cliff. We can take a gamble. Zhang Wuji knew that Dongfang Bubi's martial arts were originally not inferior to his, and he had always been a little wary of Dongfeng Bubi and Song Qingshu's final counterattack before death. Now that victory was within his grasp, there was no need for him to force the other party too hard, so he had been standing dozens of feet away. In the end, when he heard Song Qingshu's words, he could not help but laugh. "Brother Song, do you really think that reality is as beautiful as it is in the books of Jianghu? Even if there is a deep pool below, any martial arts master who falls from this cliff will become a pile of meat paste. How will you know if you don't try?" Song Qingshu looked at him indifferently. "If you want to jump, then jump. I won't stop you, lest you die in my hands. In the future, Jiruo will blame me. Don't worry, I will take care of your wife, and I will help you take good care of Jiruo." When Zhang Wuji heard that Song Qingshu had taken Zhou Jiruo's chastity, he had already wanted to kill him, but he had some scruples in his heart. He did not want to do it himself, but he also felt that it would be too easy for Song Qingshu to jump off the cliff. So he decided to disgust him before he jumped off the cliff to vent the anger in his heart. Dongfeng Bubi frowned when she heard this. From their conversation just now, she roughly understood that they were fighting for the same woman, but she did not expect that Zhang Wuji, the master of a sect, would actually say such words that did not care about his status. She thought to herself, "Are all men so irrational when they're jealous? Even if I turn into a malicious spirit, I won't let you go." Song Qingshu stood at the edge of the cliff with Dongfeng Bubi in his arms. He turned his head around and looked deeply at Zhang Wuji. This is usually said by the weak. Zhang Wuji stood with his hands behind his back and smiled in disdain. Song Qingshu ignored him, picked up Dongfeng Bubi, and jumped down the cliff. Zhang Wuji frowned and ran to the edge of the cliff to take a look. He could vaguely see the two of them falling down quickly, and only then did he relax. "I didn't expect that I would die with you." Dongfeng Bubi was heavily injured and powerless. He wrapped his arms around Song Qingshu's neck and pressed his face against Song Qingshu's chest. Even though he was about to die, his expression was incredibly calm. Song Qingshu drew the wooden sword from his back. He closed his eyes and sensed the wind while he teased. "Do you think that when people see our skeletons 100 years later, they'll think that we're a pair of infatuated lovers who committed suicide for love?" Dongfeng Bubi did not get angry this time. Instead, he pursed his lips and smiled. "That's not bad. Anyway, I'm going to die soon, so I might as well tell you my name so that at least one person in the world will know that I once existed. Don't be in a hurry to say such depressing things. Hold me tight." Song Qingshu threw the wooden sword forward and turned his hand around to strike the cliff with all his strength. He used a rebound to help him jump onto the wooden sword. Dongfeng Bubi, who was in his arms, noticed to his shock that after a series of violent swings, the two of them were flying in the air while standing on the wooden sword. Flying on a sword? How is that possible? Dongfeng Bubi mumbled, his eyes filled with disbelief. During the battle at the summit of the Forbidden City that day, Feng Qingyang's arrival on the moon had not shocked her so much, because she could tell that Feng Qingyang was just taking advantage of the situation. But now, Song Qingshu was holding her, and the two of them were standing on the wooden sword. Even though their bodies were a little unstable, they were still flying forward. "That's impossible." Dongfeng Bubi thought that he was hallucinating after being heavily injured and pinched Song Qingshu's thigh. Chapter 163. Dongfeng Bubi was instantly stunned. Usually, when the disciples spoke to her, they would be filled with fear and trepidation, and they would not even dare to raise their heads. But now, Song Qingshu, but soon, the anger in her heart was washed away by the surprise of flying on a sword. She hung herself on Song Qingshu's body and widened her phoenix eyes. She looked like a newborn baby as she sized up the blue sky and white clouds, as well as the forest under her feet that was rapidly moving backwards. Even though her lightness skill could be said to be unparalleled in the world, she could not fly freely in the sky like this. "If you can bring me to touch that cloud, I'll forgive your actions just now." Song Qingshu was trying hard to control their balance when Dongfeng Bubi's voice suddenly traveled into his ears. He looked up and saw her pointing at a white cloud not far away with her slender and fair finger. It's just a ball of saturated water vapor. What's there to touch? Song Qingshu mumbled, but he still controlled his wooden sword to fly in that direction. I actually managed to touch a cloud? When Song Qingshu brought her into the cloud, Dongfang Bubi seemed to be in slight disbelief. Her eyes were filled with white. She extended her hand to touch it, but she could not grab anything corporeal. She only felt that it was wet, and it was incredibly illusory. I always thought that clouds were soft, like cotton candy. When she thought about the daydreams she would occasionally have when she looked up at the sky, Dongfang Bubi felt that she had been very foolish at that time. Suddenly, she felt a great movement, and Dongfang Bubi was so shocked that she wrapped her arms around Song Qingshu's neck. What happened? Song Qingshu broke out in cold sweat. He gritted his teeth and said, "We might crash." Right when he finished speaking, the two of them fell straight down. Song Qingshu felt that the true qi in his body was intermittent, and his body was alternating between hot and cold. He was terrified. Could it be that I've entered spirit energy deviation? He tried his best to control the speed of his descent and began to glide. After descending a few hundred meters unsteadily, Song Qingshu could no longer control himself, and the two of them directly fell to the ground. Fortunately, during this period of time, Dongfang Bubi had already recovered some of his qi. At that moment, he was not too high from the ground. She noticed that the true qi in Song Qingshu's body had become chaotic, and she quickly let go of her arms around his neck. With a flip of her arms, she held him in her bosom. She noticed that there was a pool below them, and she circulated her qi to continuously strike the surface of the water with her palms. She used the rebound to negate their falling momentum. However, the force of their fall was more than 1,000 kilograms. When he sensed the rebound coming from the water, Dongfang Bubi coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood. With a bang, the two of them sank into the pool and fainted. When Song Qingshu woke up, he realized that he was lying on a gravel stall. Hearing the sound of water nearby, he walked towards the source of the sound and saw Dongfang Bubi sitting on a rock by the shore. She lifted the hem of her dress, and a pair of crystal white calves were soaked in the water. There was a long and narrow wound on her calves, and blood was continuously seeping out. Dongfang Bubi was using a handkerchief to gently clean the area around the wound. The surface of the water was sparkling, and Song Qingshu could not see clearly. He only felt that the skin on Dongfang Bubi's calves was even more dazzling than the surface of the lake. It was rare to see Dongfang Bubi. For a moment, he was afraid of startling her with her gentle and quiet appearance. Dongfang Bubi soon noticed his arrival, and very naturally put down the hem of her dress and stood up. "You're awake. I'm really sorry that you suffered such a superficial wound." Song Qingshu glanced at her calves, and his face was full of apology. "This is nothing." Dongfang Bubi shook his head indifferently. "You've given me enough surprises today. Why don't you tell me how you managed to control the sword and fly?" Dongfang Bubi thought of the carefree feeling they had when they traveled in the sky, and for a moment, he was a little dazed. "There's no harm in telling you, but I'm afraid you won't understand." Song Qingshu looked hesitant. When Dongfang Bubi heard this, his face turned cold. "In terms of martial arts talent, even if I'm not the best, I'm definitely in the top 3. Do you think I won't understand? All right then, listen carefully." Song Qingshu revealed a playful expression and explained slowly, "When I carried you and flew on the wooden sword, the airflow in the air would go around the bottom surface of the wooden sword and the top surface. The bottom surface of the wooden sword is a flat surface, and the top surface of the wooden sword is you and me. Just now, I deliberately controlled our bodies to maintain a streamlined angle with the sword so that the speed of the air flow through our bodies is much faster than the speed of the air flowing through the bottom surface of the wooden sword. Based on aerodynamics and Bernoulli's law, when the liquid flows through a certain surface, the faster it is, the less pressure it will have on the surface. So when the air flows through the bottom surface of the wooden sword, it will have an upward force on the wooden sword, and this force is greater than the downward force on the wooden sword when the air flows through the top surface of the wooden sword. This counteracts our own weight, and that's why we can control the sword and fly. In truth, when Song Qing-shu went up Blackwood Cliff and flew over the lake, he realized that as long as he was fast enough, he could even float on the surface of the water. Hence, he had been thinking hard about how to use the power of the water to truly cross the river on a reed. Originally, his thoughts had been stuck in the realm of martial arts, and he hoped that he could fully understand the power of water. But the more he thought about it, the more his head hurt. Then, one day, he had a flash of inspiration, and he remembered the principles behind flying planes in his previous life. Coincidentally, his company had done a project on planes in his previous life, and when he was researching related information, he had read about it to a certain extent. That was why he thought of using aerodynamics to solve the problem of controlling the sword and flying. Aerodynamics? Bernoulli's law? Dongfang Booby frowned and asked in puzzlement, "Which sect's martial arts manual is this? Why have I never heard of it?" This? Song Qing-shu was instantly stumped, and he could only say, "This is a secret manual from physics sect in the far west. It's only natural that no one in the Chinese plains has heard of it." Physics sect? Dongfang Booby sank into deep thought. He suddenly raised his head and asked, "Based on what you said, does the reason why we can fly have something to do with speed? It's a pity that you don't study physics." Song Qing-shu looked at her in surprise and nodded. "That's right. You can understand it in simple terms. Which sect is Bernoulli from? The greater the speed, the greater the lift force from the air." Oh, Dongfang Booby's eyes were filled with excitement. He raised his head and looked at the sky. "Then, doesn't that mean that as long as I'm fast enough, the lift force from the air will be much greater than my own weight? Then, won't I be able to keep rising and become an immortal?" "You're thinking too much." As a modern person who knew that the world outside Earth was a cold universe, Song Qing-shu did not quite understand why Dongfang Booby was so interested in becoming an immortal. When you fly faster than the speed of sound, the air will become sticky, and you will have to consider the Reynolds number. It's not as simple as I said just now. Of course, if your speed can reach the speed of the first universe, it's not impossible for you to become an immortal. But while you're flying, you'll be burned to ashes by the friction with the air. Dongfang Booby was confused, and he said angrily, "Then tell me directly, is it impossible for me to become an immortal?" Chapter 164. Dongfang Booby lowered her head to look at her wet clothes, and she felt troubled. Usually, she had great power, and there was a protective wall of qi 3 inches around her. It allowed her to ensure that not a single drop of water could touch her body. Even if she was as drenched as she was right now, she just needed to circulate her qi through her body once, and she would naturally be able to dry herself out. Unfortunately, right now, her qi had dried up, and she was in the wild, so she did not know what to do. "You should take off your clothes and dry them. You're heavily injured now, and you don't have any inner power to protect your body. If you catch a cold, it might endanger your life." Song Qing-shu wanted to say more, but Dongfang Booby had already stared at him coldly. "You want to take advantage of me? Even though I'm a flirtatious person sometimes, I'm still considered a gentleman in my bones. Even though I can't be as calm as Liu Xiaohui, it's not difficult to be like Zhao Kuangyin, who sent Lady Jing 1,000 miles away," Song Qing-shu said with a serious expression. Dongfang Booby kept sizing him up as if she was trying to determine whether he was telling the truth or not. Night gradually fell, and a cold wind blew past. Both of them could not help but shiver. "If you don't take it off, I'll take it off. I'm already so cold." Song Qing-shu's teeth were chattering. As he spoke, he approached the fire that had been lit and took off his clothes that were soaked in the lake water. Dongfang Booby frowned. "Turn around." Okay, I'll turn around." Song Qing-shu hung his shirt on the rack next to the fire. Of course, he was not thick-skinned enough to take off his pants as well. "If you turn around to look, I'll stab you to death with a needle." Dongfang Booby's cold voice came from behind him. Song Qing-shu waved his hand to indicate that he understood. When he heard the rustling sounds of clothes being taken off behind him, A strong urge rose in Song Qingshu's heart. He wanted to turn his head around to take a look, even if he had to risk his life, to ascertain whether Dongfang Bubi was a woman or a transvestite. To be honest, after so long, he had a knot in his heart. He was worried that his feelings would be tricked by a transvestite. That would be really embarrassing. Unfortunately, he could not use any true qi in his body. The heavily injured Dongfang Bubi could kill him in a matter of minutes. Otherwise, he would definitely take the risk and give it a try. In any case, she was also half dead at this time. In order to distract him, Song Qingshu asked, "Miss Dongfang, you wanted to tell me your name when we were in the air, but I didn't have the time to hear it. Can you say it again now?" There was silence behind him. Song Qingshu was disappointed, thinking that she had changed her mind. Just as he was about to find another topic, she suddenly said, "Mushue, Dongfang Mushue. Dongfang Mushue?" Song Qingshu's heart skipped a beat. "I'm afraid you're not the real Dongfang Bubi. Invincible Dongfang is my elder brother." Dongfang Mushue slowly revealed a martial arts secret. Back then, he usurped the position of the sect master from Renwushing and was obsessed with cultivating the Sunflower Treasure Book. He didn't have the energy to manage the divine sect, so he returned to his hometown and brought me to Blackwood Cliff. He asked me to pretend to be him and deal with the affairs of the sect. We brother and sister look somewhat alike. Moreover, we are members of the divine sect, so no one dares to raise their heads and stare at the sect leader. Look, after a few years, no one could see through my disguise. He stayed in seclusion all day long. As time passed, I became the de facto sect leader of the Sun-Moon Divine Sect. Then where is your elder brother now? Song Qingshu thought that one invincible Dongfang was already so invincible. Wouldn't two invincible Dongfang be heaven-defying? He's dead, Dongfang Mushue said calmly. How'd he die? Song Qingshu had a guess and asked cautiously. I killed him. Dongfang Mushue spoke as if she was narrating something very normal. You've already taken control of the divine sect. Naturally, there's no need to leave someone in this world who will one day take everything away from you. Song Qingshu didn't think much of it. In this world, there were many cases of fathers killing their sons and sons killing their fathers for the sake of power. If the great invincible Dongfang didn't have such courage, he would find it strange. I know what you mean. Dongfang Mushue took off her clothes and hung them on the rack. She frowned and said, but I'm not doing this for the position of sect leader. My elder brother is the person I respect and love the most. As long as he says the word, I'll retire behind the scenes without any complaints. Then why? Song Qingshu was about to turn around subconsciously, but he quickly realized that he hadn't made a huge mistake. Dongfang Mushue looked deeply at his back and slowly hung the clothes that she had taken to cover her chest back on the rack. If you dare to turn around again, don't blame me for not considering our previous friendship. It's my fault. Hurry up and continue. Song Qingshu smiled bitterly. Everything was going well until Yang Lianting came. Previously, you heard Renwushing mention the Sunflower Manual. The first method of cultivation is to castrate yourself. Elder brother. After that, his beard gradually disappeared, his voice changed, and his personality also changed. From then on, he stopped loving women and killed all 7 of his concubines. But he placed all his heart on that stinky man, Yang Lianting. When Song Qingshu heard her voice filled with resentment when she mentioned Yang Lianting, he secretly clicked his tongue and hurriedly asked, what happened after that? I never thought that my beloved brother would one day become like a married woman. When I saw him lying in Yang Lianting's arms in an incomparably flirtatious manner. Yes, I can still remember his expression at that time. It can only be described as flirtatious. I felt as if the sky had fallen. But even so, I didn't give up on my brother. Whenever I had the time, I would persuade him to chase Yang Lianting away. Until something happened later, I was completely disappointed in him. What happened? Song Qingshu vaguely felt that something must have happened between her and Yang Lianting. Then, Yang Lianting actually set his sights on me. Dongfang Mushue's voice was cold. I taught him a lesson after I failed. I ran to tell my elder brother. thinking that he would see through Yang Lianting's true colors. Who knew that not only was my elder brother not angry, he even slapped me. The next day, my elder brother came to me again. He said that he couldn't satisfy Yang Lianting because of his health. Because we looked similar, he actually made me serve Yang Lianting on his behalf. Song Qing Shu, do you know how cold my heart was at that time? Dongfang Booby is really the best of the scumbags. Song Qing Shu really couldn't understand why he would actually push his own sister to his boy toy. What kind of M attribute was this? It was even more perverted than Janning. Unfortunately, I couldn't beat him at that time. I knew that, with his personality, if I dared to say no, he would definitely subdue me first and then send me to Yang Lianting's room. I could only feign civility and agree. Dongfang Mushiwei recounted the situation that day, still feeling very scared. What? You? Hearing that she had agreed to accompany Yang Lianting, Song Qing Shu panicked. Just as he was about to turn his face away, a pebble flew towards him. Song Qing Shu hurriedly begged for mercy. It's a mistake. It's just a conditioned reflex. Chapter 165. I always thought it was because of Dongfang Booby's soft-heartedness. Song Qing Shu hesitated for a moment before speaking his true thoughts. He said it so nicely, saying that Ren Wuxing had done him a great favor and that he was ungrateful for usurping the throne. How could he harm Ren Wuxing's life? Dongfang Mushiwei snorted coldly. Others might not know, but I do. In the end, it was all for Ren Wuxing's absorbing stars. Absorbing stars? Song Qing Shu was really confused now. Your brother practiced the Sunflower Manual. Why would he be interested in Ren Wuxing's absorbing stars? Dongfang Mushiwei let out a mocking smile. He castrated himself to cultivate qi, and his personality became like a woman's. He was constantly vexed about why he couldn't be a woman, until Ping Yizhi suggested that he could switch his body to a woman's through brain transplant. Famous killer Dr. Ping Yizhi? Song Qing Shu recalled that Ping Yizhi was one of the 4 great doctors in the world. When his meridians were broken, he even considered going to Kaifeng to seek treatment. That's right, his secret identity is a member of our sect. Dongfang Booby's voice was filled with fear. Switching 2 body souls through brain swapping. Just the thought of it sends chills down my spine. Can he really do it? Song Qing Shu thought that even modern medicine could not do it. How could Ping Yizhi succeed? That's right, he did it. Dongfang Mushiwei's tone was filled with admiration and disgust. He successfully swapped 2 people's souls. My brother was overjoyed and decided to let Ping Yizhi help him switch his brain. Absorbing stars, could it be? Song Qing Shu suddenly realized why Dongfang Booby needed absorbing stars. That's right. Although my brother wanted to be a woman completely, he couldn't bear to give up his peerless martial arts. So he hoped to use absorbing stars to transfer all his martial arts into that woman's body. Dongfang Mushiwei nodded approvingly. It's a pity that Ren Wuxing isn't someone who's easily fooled. He saw through Black and White Child's goal with just one glance. Although he doesn't know why Dongfang Booby would covet his star-sucking ability, he knows that it's definitely not something good. So, when faced with Black and White Child's coaxing and pestering, he didn't give in. Later, my brother grew impatient and went to look for the legendary Carefree sect. Carefree school? Song Qing Shu gasped in shock. Even though he already knew that this world was a fusion of 14 Golden Book worlds, he still found it a little strange to suddenly hear about the intersection of characters from 2 different books. That's right, Dongfang Mushiwei nodded. According to the records of the Divine Sect, the absorbing stars originated from the dark North Divine power of the Carefree sect. My brother couldn't get his hands on the absorbing stars, so he set his sights on the dark North Divine power. The 3 Carefree elders, Heavenly Mountain Tonglao, Li Qiushui, and Wu Yizi, are all top-notch martial artists. I'm afraid it won't be easy for your brother to get the dark North Divine arts from them. Song Qing Shu's mind was constantly evaluating the strength of the 2 sides. Chapter 163. A Chance of Survival. I didn't expect you to be so familiar with the secrets of the martial arts world at such a young age. Dongfang Mushiwei looked at him in surprise. I only know that my brother couldn't find Wu Yizi, so he went to visit the heavenly mountain Tong Lao of the Vulture Palace and the Shishia's old princess Li Qiushui. We came back. He couldn't stop praising their martial arts. Dongfang Booby against those two old monsters. Speaking of which, Dongfang Booby can also be considered a monster. Song Qingshu criticized in his mind. He raised his head and asked, "What about the Dark North Divine Power?" Dongfang Muxue recalled. After he came back, he went into closed-door training for half a year and went out again. When he came back, he had already obtained the Dark North Divine Power. What kind of deal did Wu Yizi make with him? Or did he fall into his hands? Song Qingshu pondered. That's not right. Theoretically speaking, Li Qiushui also knows the Dark North Divine Power. Hearing Dongfang Muxue recount these old stories, Song Qingshu only felt that it was inconceivable. He suddenly thought of something. After Dongfang Booby obtained the Dark North Divine Power, his next step was to find a woman to be his cauldron. To him, this woman must be very young and beautiful, so that he could please Yang Lianting in the future. It would be even better if he could find a woman with a similar face. Dongfang Muxue's face was as calm as still water. She raised her head and looked at the starry sky, once again immersed in her memories. You've guessed correctly. The woman he chose was me. Although he kept lying to me that he chose Ren Yingying, I knew in my heart that in the end, the person would definitely be me. Your brother and sister, so the rejection would probably be less. Song Qingshu knew that she was standing behind him, safe and sound, so he immediately joked. That's right. That's what Ping Yizhi told him. During this period of time, Yang Lianting had also been pestering me, but I managed to avoid her every time. My brother had obtained the Dark North Divine Power and was thinking of giving his first time to his lover after switching brains with me. Therefore, he changed his usual style and asked Yang Lianting not to pester me for the time being. Dongfang Muxue sneered. She was very clever. These were all deductions from the clues in the past, and they were not far from the truth. Did you make a move on Dongfang Booby? Song Qingshu put himself in the situation she faced at that time and thought about how to avoid being killed, but he couldn't come up with a feasible plan even though he was dizzy from thinking. That day, I had not mastered the divine power and was far from being his match. Although Dongfang Muxue knew that Song Qingshu's back was facing her and could not see, she still shook her head. Moreover, the secret of the two Dongfang Boobies cannot be made public, so I can't use the power of the church. Then aren't you dead for sure? Song Qingshu still broke out in cold sweat for her grim situation that day. That's right. After that, I was subdued by him and locked in a secret room. Then, he used the Dark North Divine Power to transfer all his power into my body. Then, he called Ping Yizhi out to switch brains for him. Dongfang Muxue purposely paused. However, Song Qingshu's hair stood on end when he heard this. He could no longer care about anything else. He turned around and pointed at her, his teeth chattering. Chapter 163. A Chance of Survival You. Your Dongfang Booby? Dongfang Muxue did not expect that a moment of mischief would scare Song Qingshu to this extent. When his body swayed just now, she realized that he was about to turn around. She quickly hooked her finger and sucked the light muslin from the rack over. She turned around on the spot and covered herself tightly with the light muslin. You're courting death. Dongfang Muxue frowned and glared at Song Qingshu angrily. With just a glimpse, he had already experienced enough of the scene. To cover up his embarrassment, Song Qingshu hurriedly asked, "Who are you? What happened in the secret room?" Chapter 166. Of course, you're Dongfang Muxue. Song Qingshu heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the mischievous look on her face. Even if invincible Dongfang could change his appearance to that of a woman, he could never act out the gentleness in a woman's bones. At least you know what's good for you. Dongfang Muxue pursed her lips and smiled. When Big Brother asked me to accompany Yang Lianting, I finally understood that it wasn't a long-term plan after hiding a few times. So, I secretly found Ping Yizhi. You want to find Ping Yizhi? Song Qingshu seemed to have understood something, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Although I can't hide forever, I could try to make Big Brother give up the idea of having me serve him. When Ping Yiji told Big Brother that he could swap their bodies, Big Brother's attitude changed. He no longer urged me to accompany Yang Lianting like before. Instead, he wanted to personally serve him after he obtained a woman's body. What a joke. The great invincible Dongfang is actually jealous like a woman. Dongfang Mushua's laughter was filled with mockery and helplessness. So, you and Ping Yiji were in cahoots? Song Qingshu asked. That's right. Dongfang Mushua nodded with a smile. Didn't you say that Ping Yiji successfully swapped their bodies? Song Qingshu thought of a loophole. Could it be that he really has the ability to do so? Swap bodies? Dongfang Mushua sneered. That's just Big Brother's wishful thinking. I guess that he had such thoughts from his usual size and size. So, I found Ping Yiji before him and asked him to announce to Big Brother that he could swap bodies. As for the two followers, I've been a leader for so many years, so I've got a few loyal followers. It's not difficult for them to pretend that their bodies have been swapped with each other. My brother has been dreaming of this, so when he saw it, he didn't have any doubts. But why would Ping Yiji listen to you? Song Qingshu couldn't figure this out. Invincible Dongfang is the real leader. Why would he take the risk to work with you? Because I imparted the Sunflower Treasured Manual to him. Dongfang Mushua's casual words were like a bolt of lightning on a clear day. What? Song Qingshu looked at her in disbelief. It was one of the best treasured books in the martial arts world. Even if it meant cutting off his penis, she just gave it away so casually. Otherwise, what do you think my brother can't give him? Dongfang Mushua expressed her disdain for him, making a fuss over nothing. Back then, in order for me to better impersonate him, my brother also taught me the Sunflower Manual. Unfortunately, I've only cultivated for a short period of time, and am no match for him, so I had to resort to this. No matter how precious the Sunflower Treasured Book is, it's just a worldly possession. Song Qingshu, you must remember that there is nothing that cannot be given up for those who wish to achieve great things. In Dongfang Mushua's eyes, Song Qingshu had always been a frivolous person. Due to an indescribable reason, she decided to teach him a lesson. Chapter 164. Sister will help you vent your anger seeing that Song Qingshu was deep in thought. Dongfang Mushua continued. The Sunflower Manual is a martial art that everyone in the martial arts world yearns for. Ping Yiji was moved when he heard about it, because he knew that no matter how much he did for Dongfang Bubi would never teach him the Sunflower Manual. If you wish to practice divine kung fu, castrate yourself with a knife. Song Qingshu felt a faint chill between his legs as he said these words. Aren't you afraid that Ping Yiji will go back on his words after reading these words? I'm not that stupid. Dongfang Mushua glanced at him. Although Ping Yiji is already over 50 years old, you men place a lot of importance on that aspect. So, I didn't dare to take the risk and gave him the second half first, saying that I'll give him the first half after the deed is done. You're so bad. Song Qingshu could imagine how Ping Yiji must have felt when he saw the first 8 words at the beginning of the first half of the book. Did you really give him the first half of the book? What do you think? A faint smile appeared on Dongfang Mushua's face. Of course you wouldn't give it to him. Song Qingshu shook his head and said with certainty. Ping Yiji is a veteran. He actually understood that I would not give him the first half of the secret manual. Unfortunately, he could not overcome the greed in his heart. He took a gamble with the hope that it would work. Dongfang Mushua said, after the deed was done, he saw that I didn't take the initiative to mention the grimoire and completely gave up. He was also worried that I would kill him, so he fled Blackwood Cliff that very night. What a tragedy. Song Qingshu clicked his tongue and sighed. What happened next? When brother woke up from his coma and saw me and Ping Yiji standing behind me, he was stunned for a moment before he smiled. At that moment, he was no longer that monster dressed in female clothing, neither male nor female. He regained his heroic appearance from my memories. I still remember his last words. Dongfang Mushua reminisced, a trace of sadness that could not be erased appearing on her face. Xiao Shui, brother has always treated you as the little girl who didn't know anything. I didn't think that you'd grown up unknowingly. You're very good. Don't let down Dongfang Booby's name in the future. After he finished speaking, he used his remaining power to sever his heart meridian and died. Song Qing-shu felt that the heavenly Tao was indeed unpredictable. Even if one's martial arts were unparalleled, one would still be a pile of dirt in the end. From then on, I was Dongfang Booby, and Dongfang Booby was me. From then on, I was Invincible Dongfang, and Invincible Dongfang was me. After obtaining my brother's skills, coupled with the fact that I was also cultivating the Sunflower Manual, and our true chi came from the same source, my martial arts improved by leaps and bounds very quickly. A few years later, I even surpassed my brother in the past. When Dongfang Mushue said this, her voice was filled with a murderous aura. At that moment, Song Qing-shu had a vague feeling that the little girl who would curiously stretch out her hand to touch the clouds in the sky would never return. Unfortunately, you still lost this time. Song Qing-shu felt that the little girl who would curiously stretch out her hand to touch the clouds would never come back. Unfortunately, you still lost this time. Song Qing-shu, after today's humiliation, I will personally kill my way to Brightness Peak in the future and wipe out the Ming Dynasty. Dongfang Mushue had been seriously injured by Zhang Wuji's sneak attack and could only commit suicide by jumping off a cliff. How could she swallow the anger in her heart? Suddenly remembering something, Dongfang Mushue's expression turned strange. When I overheard your conversation on the cliff, it seems that you've fallen in love with the same woman. It's not really love. Song Qing-shu's face darkened. To put it simply, Zhang Wuji and that woman were in love with each other. However, due to various misunderstandings, the woman pretended to marry me in a fit of anger. Because I couldn't stand the fact that the two of them were still in a relationship, I resorted to underhanded means to take her virginity. What this woman and that woman? Isn't she the leader of the Amei faction, Zhou Jiruo? Dongfang Mushue pursed her lips. How did you know? Song Qing-shu looked at her in surprise. After the Shaolin Lion Slaying Festival, the melodramatic entanglement between the three of you has long spread throughout Jianghu. As the leader of the Sun Moon sect, I've naturally heard of it as well. At that time, I only thought it was fun and listened to it as gossip material. Seeing the ugly expression on Song Qing-shu's face, Dongfang Mushue smiled and said, I heard that your meridians were once broken by the people of the Wudong faction. When I recover, I'll bring you to Mount Wudong and help you vent your anger. Although your Sunflower Treasure Book is powerful, it may not be able to defeat Zhang Sanfeng's 100 years of cultivation base. Song Qing-shu smiled disdainfully. It was rare that Dongfang Mushue was not angry. Instead, she nodded. Zhang Sanfeng used the name of Shaolin Trader to establish his faction. Over the decades, all the grudges in Jianghu have been blocked by his fists and sword. How difficult is that? Rumor has it that Zhang Sanfeng's pure, young, limitless skill has already been cultivated to the realm of enshrouding purple aura. His Taiji fist sword is even more unparalleled. If there's a chance in the future, I'd really like to experience it. The essence of your martial arts lies in speed. Zhang Sanfeng, on the other hand, is most proficient in using stillness to counter speed. If we really fight, I don't think you'll win. Song Qing-shu shook his head. Who knows if we haven't fought before? Dongfang Mushue did not argue. She looked at Song Qing-shu's chest and frowned. Your clothes are almost dry. Put them on first. Help me throw them over. It's not convenient for me to come over. Seeing Dongfang Mushue's hands tightly gripping the satin wrapped around her body, revealing her snow-white and delicate collarbone and her slender calves vaguely visible, Song Qing-shu suddenly had the intention to play a prank. Dongfang Mushue did not realize that Song Qing-shu wanted to see if the satin on her body would slip when she loosened her grip on the clothes. If he knew, he would probably have used an embroidery needle to greet her. Her right hand was still gripping the satin on her body. With a push of her left hand, the clothes on the drying rack were sent gently into Song Qing-shu's hands. Turn around. I want to put on my clothes. Oh, Song Qing-shu turned around in disappointment. He picked up the clothes and put them on. Speaking of which, I haven't settled the score with you yet. Dongfang Mushue's voice sounded from behind. What score do you have with me? Song Qingshu was stunned. If it wasn't for me, I'm afraid you wouldn't have been able to escape. Turn around. Dongfang Mushue tidied her clothes and said angrily, If it wasn't for you, why would I fight with Feng Qingyang? I was injured by his innate sword qi and lost a lot of my strength. Otherwise, how would Zhang Wuji have the ability to sneak an attack on me? Feng Qingyang challenged you to a duel. What does that have to do with me? Song Qingshu said with a guilty conscience. You dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it. How dare you say such arrogant words? You want to be my man? Dongfang Mushue smiled disdainfully. Don't think that I don't know what happened between you and that little widow from the Yuan family. How do you know everything? Song Qingshu was instantly depressed. How could he know that Dongfang Mushue was teased when she left the capital? When she returned to Blackwood Cliff, she couldn't take it lying down and sent her subordinates to secretly gather information about Song Qingshu. The Sun Moon sect had tens of thousands of disciples, and the Five Mountain Sword sect was the main focus of the Sun Moon sect. How could the fact that Song Qingshu accompanied Xia Qingqing to Mount Hua to look for Feng Qingyang be hidden? I see that you have plans to marry that little widow. Dongfang Mushue suddenly asked curiously. I killed her husband. If one day you really become my man, how do you plan to deal with our relationship? Uneasy harem. Although your Sunflower Treasure Book is powerful, it may not be able to defeat Zhang Sanfeng's 100 years of cultivation. Song Qingshu smiled disdainfully. Dongfang Mushue didn't get angry. Instead, she nodded. Zhang Sanfeng used the name of a Shaolin trader to establish a sect. Dozens of years of gratitude and resentment in the Jianghu were all blocked by his fist and sword. How difficult is that? Rumor has it that Zhang Sanfeng's pure, young, limitless skill has been cultivated to the realm of enshrouding purple energy. His Taiji fist sword is even more unparalleled. If there's a chance in the future, I'd really like to experience it. The essence of your martial arts lies in speed. Zhang Sanfeng, on the other hand, is most proficient in using stillness to counter speed. If we really fight, I don't think you can win. Song Qingshu shook his head. Who knows if we haven't fought before? Dongfang Mushue didn't argue. She looked at Song Qingshu's chest and frowned. Your clothes are almost dry. Put them on first. Help me throw them over. It's not convenient for me to come over. Dongfang Mushue's hands were tightly gripping the satin wrapped around her body, revealing her snow-white and exquisite collarbone. Her two slender calves were faintly discernible. Song Qingshu suddenly had a mischievous thought. Dongfang Mushue didn't realize that Song Qingshu wanted to see if the satin on her body would slip when she let go of the clothes. If he knew, he would probably have used an embroidery needle to greet her. Her right hand was still gripping the satin on her body. With a push of her left hand, the clothes that were drying on the rack were gently sent into Song Qingshu's hands. Turn around. I want to put on my clothes. Oh. Song Qingshu turned around in disappointment. He picked up the clothes and put them on. Speaking of which, I haven't settled the score with you yet. Dongfang Mushue's voice sounded from behind him. What score do you have? Song Qingshu was stunned. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have been able to escape this calamity. Turn around. Dongfang Mushue tidied her clothes and said angrily, If it wasn't for you, why would I duel with Feng Qingyang? As a result, I was injured by his innate sword qi and my strength was greatly reduced. Otherwise, how would Zhang Wuji have the ability to launch a sneak attack on me? Feng Qingyang challenged you to a duel. What does that have to do with me? Song Qingshu said with a guilty conscience. You dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it. You still dare to speak so arrogantly. You want to be my man? Dongfang Mushue laughed disdainfully. Don't think that I don't know what happened between you and the little widow of the Yuan clan. How do you know everything? Song Qingshu was instantly depressed. How could he know that Dongfang Mushue had been molested when she left the capital? When she returned to Blackwood Cliff, she couldn't take it lying down and sent her subordinates to secretly gather information about Song Qingshu. The Sun Moon sect had tens of thousands of disciples, and the Five Mountain Sword sect was the main focus of the Sun Moon sect. How could the fact that Song Qing had accompanied Xia Qingqing to Mount Hua to look for Feng Qingyang be kept a secret? I see that you have plans to marry that little widow. Dongfang Mushu suddenly asked curiously. I killed her husband. If one day you really become my man, how you plan to deal with our relationship? Uneasy harem. Although your sunflower treasure book is powerful, it may not be able to defeat Zhang Sanfeng's 100 years of cultivation. Song Qing smiled disdainfully. It was rare that Dongfang Mushua didn't get angry. Instead, she nodded. Zhang Sanfeng used the name of a Shaolin trader to establish a sect. All the grievances in the Jianghu over the decades have been blocked by his fist and sword. How difficult is that? It is said that Zhang Sanfeng's pure, young, limitless skill has been cultivated to the realm of enshrouding purple aura. His Taiji fist sword is even more unparalleled. If there is a chance in the future, I would really like to experience it. The essence of your martial arts lies in the word speed. Zhang Sanfeng, on the other hand, is best at using silence to counter speed. If we really fight, I don't think you can win. Song Qing shook his head. Who knows if we haven't fought before? Dongfang Mushua didn't argue. She looked at Song Qingshu's chest and frowned. Your clothes are almost dry. Put them on first. Help me throw them over. It's not convenient for me to come over. Song Qingshu saw Dongfang Mushua's hands tightly gripping the satin wrapped around her body, revealing her snow-white and exquisite collarbone. Her slender calves were faintly discernible. Song Qingshu suddenly had a mischievous thought. Dongfang Mushue didn't realize that Song Qingshu wanted to see if the satin on her body would slip when she let go of the clothes. If he knew, he would probably have used an embroidery needle to greet him. Her right hand was still gripping the satin on her body. With a push of her left hand, the clothes on the drying rack were sent gently into Song Qingshu's hands. Turn around. I want to put on my clothes. Oh, Song Qingshu turned around in disappointment. He picked up the clothes and put them on. Speaking of which, I haven't settled the score with you yet. Dongfang Mushue's voice sounded from behind. What score do you have? Song Qingshu was stunned. If it wasn't for me, you probably wouldn't have been able to escape. Turn around. Dongfang Mushua tidied up her clothes and said angrily, If it wasn't for you, why would I duel with Feng Qingyang? I was injured by his innate sword qi, and my strength was greatly reduced. Otherwise, how would Zhang Wuji have the ability to sneak an attack on me? Feng Qingyang challenged you to a duel. What does that have to do with me? Song Qingshu said with a guilty conscience. You dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it. How dare you say such arrogant words? You want to be my man? Dongfang Mushua smiled disdainfully. Don't think that I don't know what happened between you and the little widow of the Yuan family. How do you know everything? Song Qingshu was instantly depressed. He didn't know that Dongfang Mushua had been teased when she left the capital city. When she returned to Blackwood Cliff, she couldn't take it anymore and sent her subordinates to secretly gather information about Song Qingshu. The Sun Moon sect had tens of thousands of disciples, and the Five Mountain Sword sect was the main focus of the Sun Moon sect. How could the matter of Song Qingshu accompanying Xia Qingqing to Mount Hua to look for Feng Qingyang be hidden? I see that you have plans to marry that little widow. Dongfang Mushua suddenly asked curiously. I killed her husband. If one day you really become my man, how do you plan to deal with our relationship? Uneasy harem. Although your sunflower treasure book is powerful, it may not be able to defeat Zhang Sanfeng's 100 years of cultivation. Song Qingshu smiled disdainfully. It was rare that Dongfang Mushua didn't get angry. Instead, she nodded. Zhang Sanfeng used the name of a Shaolin trader to establish a sect. All the grievances in the Jianghu over the decades have been blocked by his fist and sword. How difficult is that? It is said that Zhang Sanfeng's pure, young, limitless skill has been cultivated to the realm of enshrouding purple aura. His Taiji fist sword is even more unparalleled. If there is a chance in the future, I would really like to experience it. The essence of your martial arts lies in the word speed. Zhang Sanfeng, on the other hand, is best at using stillness to counter speed. If we really fight, I don't think you can win. Song Qingshu shook his head. Who knows if we haven't fought? Dongfang Mushua didn't argue. She looked at Song Qingshu's chest and frowned. Your clothes are almost dry. Put them on first. Help me throw them over. It's not convenient for me to come over. Song Qingshu saw Dongfang Mushua's hands tightly gripping the satin wrapped around her body, revealing her snow-white and exquisite collarbone. Her slender calves were faintly discernible. Song Qingshu suddenly had a mischievous thought. Dongfang Mushua didn't realize that Song Qingshu wanted to see if the satin on her body would slip when she let go of the clothes. If he knew, he would probably have used an embroidery needle to greet him. Her right hand was still gripping the satin on her body. With a push of her left hand, the clothes on the drying rack were sent gently into Song Qingshu's hands. Turn around. I want to put on my clothes. Oh. Song Qingshu turned around in disappointment. He picked up the clothes and put them on. Speaking of which, I haven't settled the score with you. Dongfang Mushua's voice sounded from behind. What score do you have? Song Qingshu was stunned. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have been able to escape. Turn around. Dongfang Mushua tidied her clothes and said angrily, if it wasn't for you, why would I duel with Feng Qingyang? I was injured by his innate sword qi, and my strength was greatly reduced. Otherwise, how would Zhang Wuji have the ability to sneak an attack on me? Feng Qingyang challenged you to a duel. What does that have to do with me? Song Qingshu said with a guilty conscience. You dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it. How dare you say such arrogant words? You want to be my man? Dongfang Mushua smiled disdainfully. Don't think that I don't know what happened between you and the little widow of the Yuan family. How do you know everything? Song Qingshu was instantly depressed. He didn't know that Dongfang Mushua had been teased when she left the capital. When she returned to Blackwood Cliff, she couldn't take it anymore and sent her subordinates to secretly gather information about Song Qingshu. The Sun Moon sect had tens of thousands of disciples, and the Five Mountain Sword sect was the main focus of the Sun Moon sect. How could the fact that Song Qingshu accompanied Xia Qingqing to Mount Hua to look for Feng Qingyang be hidden? I see that you have plans to marry that little widow. Dongfang Mushua suddenly asked curiously. I killed her husband. If one day you really become my man, how do you plan to deal with our relationship? Uneasy harem. Although your sunflower treasure book is powerful, it may not be able to defeat Zhang Sanfeng's 100 years of cultivation. Song Qingshu smiled disdainfully. It was rare that Dongfang Mushua didn't get angry. Instead, she nodded. Zhang Sanfeng used the name of Shaolin trader to establish a sect. All the grievances in the Jianghu over the decades have been blocked by his fist and sword. How difficult is that? Rumor has it that Zhang Sanfeng's pure, yang, limitless skill has been cultivated to the realm of enshrouding purple aura. His Taiji fist sword is even more unparalleled. If there's a chance in the future, I'd really like to experience it. The essence of your martial arts lies in speed. Zhang Sanfeng, on the other hand, is best at using silence to counter speed. If we really fight, I don't think you'll win. Song Qingshu shook his head. Who knows if we haven't fought? Dongfang Mushua didn't argue. She looked at Song Qingshu's chest and frowned. Your clothes are almost dry. Put them on first. Throw them over for me. It's not convenient for me to come over. Song Qingshu saw Dongfang Mushua's hands tightly gripping the satin wrapped around her body, revealing her snow-white and exquisite collarbone. Her slender calves were faintly discernible. Song Qingshu suddenly had a mischievous thought. Dongfang Mushua didn't realize that Song Qingshu wanted to see if the satin on her body would slip when she let go of the clothes. If he knew, he would probably have used an embroidery needle to greet him. Her right hand was still gripping the satin on her body. With a push of her left hand, the clothes on the drying rack were sent gently into Song Qingshu's hands. Turn around. I'm going to put on my clothes. Oh, Song Qingshu turned around in disappointment. He picked up the clothes and put them on. Speaking of which, I haven't settled the score with you yet. Dongfang Mushue's voice sounded from behind. What score do you have with me? Song Qingshu was stunned. If it wasn't for me, you probably wouldn't have been able to escape this calamity. Turn around. Dongfang Mushue tidied her clothes and said angrily, If it wasn't for you, why would I duel with Feng Qingyang? I was injured by his innate sword qi and my strength was greatly reduced. Otherwise, how would Zhang Wuji have the ability to sneak an attack on me? Feng Qingyang challenged you to a duel. What does that have to do with me? Song Qingshu said with a guilty conscience. You dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it. How dare you say such arrogant words? You want to be my man? Dongfang Mushue smiled disdainfully. Don't think that I don't know what happened between you and the little widow of the Yuan family. How do you know everything? Song Qingshu was instantly depressed. He didn't know that Dongfang Mushue had been teased when she left the capital. When she returned to Blackwood Cliff, she couldn't take it anymore and sent her subordinates to secretly gather information about Song Qingshu. The Sun Moon sect had tens of thousands of disciples, and the Five Mountain Sword sect was the main focus of the Sun Moon sect. How could the fact that Song Qingshu accompanied Xia Qingqing to Mount Hua to look for Feng Qingyang be hidden? I see that you have plans to marry that little widow. Dongfang Mushue suddenly asked curiously. I killed her husband. If one day you really become my man, how do you plan to deal with our relationship? Uneasy harem. Although your sunflower treasure book is powerful, it may not be able to defeat Zhang Sanfeng's 100 years of cultivation. Song Qingshu smiled disdainfully. It was rare that Dongfang Mushue didn't get angry. Instead, she nodded. Zhang Sanfeng used the name of a Shaolin trader to establish a sect. All the grievances in the Jianghu over the decades have been blocked by his fist and sword. How difficult is that? Rumor has it that Zhang Sanfeng's pure, young, limitless skill has been cultivated to the realm of enshrouding purple aura. His Taiji fist sword is even more unparalleled. If there's a chance in the future, I would really like to have a taste of it. The essence of your martial arts lies in speed. Zhang Sanfeng, on the other hand, is best at using silence to counter speed. If we really fight, I don't think you can win. Song Qingshu shook his head. Who knows if we haven't fought? Dongfang Mushue didn't argue. She looked at Song Qingshu's chest and frowned. Your clothes are almost dry. Put them on first. Throw them over for me. It's not convenient for me to come over. Song Qingshu saw Dongfang Mushue's hands tightly gripping the satin wrapping around her body, revealing her snow-white and exquisite collarbone. Her slender calves were faintly discernible. Song Qingshu suddenly had a mischievous thought. Dongfang Mushue didn't realize that Song Qingshu wanted to see if the satin on her body would slip when she let go of the clothes. If he knew, he would probably have used an embroidery needle to greet her. Her right hand was still gripping the satin on her body. With a push of her left hand, the clothes that were drying on the rack were sent gently into Song Qingshu's hands. Turn around. I want to put on my clothes. Oh, Song Qingshu turned around in disappointment. He picked up the clothes and put them on. Speaking of which, I haven't settled the score with you yet. Dongfang Mushue's voice sounded from behind him. What score do you have with me? Song Qingshu was stunned. If it wasn't for me, you probably wouldn't have been able to escape this calamity. Turn around. Dongfang Mushue straightened her clothes and said angrily, If it wasn't for you, why would I duel with Feng Qingyang? As a result, I was injured by his innate sword qi and my strength was greatly reduced. Otherwise, how would Zhang Wuji have the ability to ambush me? Feng Qingyang challenged you to a duel. What does that have to do with me? Song Qingshu spoke with a guilty conscience. You dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it. How dare you speak such arrogant words like this? You want to be my man? Dongfang Mushue smiled disdainfully. Don't think that I don't know what happened between you and that little widow of the Yuan family. How do you know everything? Song Qingshu was instantly depressed. How could he know that Dongfang Mushue had been molested when she left the capital? When she returned to Blackwood Cliff, she couldn't take it lying down. She sent her subordinates to secretly gather information about Song Qingshu. The Sun Moon sect had tens of thousands of disciples, and the Five Mountain Sword sect was the main focus of the Sun Moon sect. How could the fact that Song Qing-shu had accompanied Xia Qingqing to Mount Hua to look for Feng Qingyang be kept a secret? I see that you have plans to marry that little widow. Dongfang Muxue suddenly asked curiously. I killed her husband. If one day you really become my man, how do you plan to deal with our relationship? Chapter 167. Although your sunflower manual is powerful, it may not be able to defeat Zhang Sanfeng's 100 years of cultivation. Song Qing-shu smiled disdainfully. Dongfang Muxue was rarely angry. Instead, she nodded. Zhang Sanfeng used the name of a Shaolin trader to establish his own sect. Over the past few decades, all the grievances in Jianghu have been blocked by his fists and swords. How difficult is that? It is said that Zhang Sanfeng's pure yang limitless skill has already reached the realm of enshrouding purple aura. His Taiji sword is even more unparalleled. If there's a chance in the future, I would really like to experience it for myself. The essence of your martial arts lies in speed. Zhang Sanfeng, on the other hand, is most proficient in using stillness to counter speed. If we really fight, I don't think you can win. Song Qing-shu shook his head. Who knows if we haven't fought? Dongfang Muxue did not argue. She looked at Song Qing-shu's chest and frowned. Your clothes are almost dry. Put them on first. Help me toss them over. It's not convenient for me to come over. Dongfang Muxue's hands were tightly gripping the satin wrapped around her body, revealing her snow-white and exquisite collarbone. Her slender calves were faintly discernible. Song Qing-shu suddenly had a mischievous thought. Dongfang Muxue did not realize that Song Qing-shu wanted to see if the satin on her body would slip when she loosened her grip on the clothes. If he knew, he would probably use an embroidery needle to greet her. Her right hand was still gripping the satin on her body. With a push of her left hand, the clothes on the drying rack were sent gently into Song Qing-shu's hands. Turn around. I want to put on my clothes. Oh. Song Qing-shu turned around in disappointment. He picked up the clothes and put them on. Speaking of which, I haven't settled the score with you yet. Dongfang Muxue's voice came from behind. What score do you have with me? Song Qing-shu was stunned. If it wasn't for me, I'm afraid you wouldn't have been able to escape. Turn around. Dongfang Muxue straightened her clothes and said angrily, If it wasn't for you, why would I fight with Feng Qingyang? As a result, I was injured by his innate sword qi and my strength was greatly reduced. Otherwise, how could Zhang Wuji have the ability to sneak up on me? Feng Qingyang challenged you to a duel. What does that have to do with me? Song Qing-shu spoke with a guilty conscience. You dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it. Someone like you still dares to spout such arrogant words. You want to be my man? Dongfang Muxue smiled disdainfully. Don't think that I don't know what happened between you and that little widow of the Yuan family. How do you know everything? Song Qing-shu suddenly felt depressed. How could he know that Dongfang Muxue had been teased when she left the capital? When she returned to Blackwood Cliff, she couldn't take it lying down and sent her subordinates to secretly gather information about Song Qing-shu. The Sun Moon sect had tens of thousands of disciples, and the Five Mountain Sword sect was the main focus of the Sun Moon sect. How could the fact that Song Qing-shu accompanied Xia Qingqing to Mount Hua to look for Feng Qingyang be kept a secret? I see that you have plans to marry that little widow. Dongfang Muxue suddenly asked curiously. I killed her husband. If one day you really become my man, how do you plan to deal with our relationship? Chapter 165. Unsettled harem this time. Song Qing-shu was really stumped. I don't know, you don't know. Dongfang Muxue was so angry that she laughed. You haven't thought about anything and you dare to have a harem? Why think so much? Marry her first. Song Qing-shu's temper flared up and he said directly, Good, you have guts. That's how a real man should be. Hearing his words, Dongfang Muxue laughed instead, but her smile quickly disappeared. What's going on with you and Kangxi's Mi Fei? Song Qing-shu looked embarrassed. I lied to you that night. That woman wasn't Mi Fei, but Xia Qingqing, that little widow. Dongfang Muxue was stunned, and looked at him in surprise. I didn't expect to be tricked by you that day. But that woman's husband had just died, and she was already in bed with you, fooling around. She's really not a good woman. Just play around. Don't get yourself involved. Song Qingshu knew that she had misunderstood, but it wasn't convenient for him to explain, so he could only laugh dryly. I'll go check out the surroundings first. Dongfang Muxue glanced at his wet pants before she left. Song Qingshu knew that she was taking the opportunity to let him dry his pants. He blushed and smiled embarrassedly. Dongfang Muxue estimated that it was about time, so she flew back leisurely. Song Qingshu had already put on his clothes. To distract himself from the awkwardness, he quickly asked, "How is it? Is there a way out of the valley?" Dongfang Muxue found a smooth rock and sat down cross-legged. She answered slowly, "This seems to be a broken valley, and there are cliffs all around. Fortunately, they aren't too high. When my injuries get better tomorrow, I should be able to fly out with my qinggong." "Did you find any martial arts manuals or treasures?" Song Qingshu's eyes lit up. "Why are you asking this?" Dongfang Muxue was obviously surprised. "Didn't we fall off the cliff and survive?" According to ancient legends, the bottom of the cliff is often the burial place of some senior experts. Don't they leave behind secret manuals for the fated ones to find before they die? Song Qingshu said matter-of-factly. Dongfang Muxue stared at him with a strange look. "Are you serious?" Before Song Qingshu could answer, she was already speechless. "I don't even know what's going on in your head. First of all, we were flying on our swords for a period of time, and this is no longer the bottom of the cliff. Secondly, even if some martial arts senior really died here, the martial arts manuals he left behind are nothing to me. Lastly," Dongfang Muxue calmed her rapid breathing. "If I were to die here, I would definitely not leave behind the sunflower manual. Even if I did, I would only leave behind a fake manual so that the fated one would die from cultivation deviation and come down to be buried with me." Song Qingshu felt a chill down his spine. He subconsciously took a step back and distanced himself from her. "You're already so black that you've turned into carbon. Thank you for the compliment." Dongfang Muxue felt as if she had heard something. Of course, if she knew about the meaning of carbon earwood in the future, she would probably be so angry that she would tear Song Qingshu apart on the spot. "Let's talk about your injuries." Song Qingshu wisely decided not to continue this topic. Zhang Wuji is indeed the sect leader of the Ming dynasty. His martial arts are indeed very high. Even if I wasn't injured, it wouldn't be easy to defeat him. Dongfang Muxue checked the condition of her body and said with a serious expression, "Previously, I forcefully suppressed Feng Qingyang's innate sword qi, and this time, I almost had all the true qi in my body destroyed by him. I don't have any energy left to suppress my previous injuries. Adding injuries on top of my previous injuries, I'm afraid I won't be able to recover within 10 years. 10 years? Song Qingshu exclaimed. If news of this were to spread, with the hatred that Dongfang Bubi had built up over the decades, she would probably die in the hands of her enemies within a year. He could not help but say angrily, "Damn Zhang Wuji, why would he suddenly appear at Blackwood Cliff?" The Ming dynasty and the Sun Moon sect are originally of the same origin. I can more or less guess his motive. Dongfang Muxue said slowly. Yes, it needs to be changed. Stealing fragrance expert has been moved to the Xuanhuan category. Please bookmark it and continue to support it. Thank you. Chapter 168. It sounds so much better if you don't call me this seat. Song Qingshu beamed at her. You can barely be considered a friend now. There's nothing wrong with calling me this seat in private. Dongfang Muxue rolled her eyes at him. Don't take it for granted. Go on, go on. Song Qingshu found a rock and sat down. He reclined with his hands behind his back, ready to listen to the drama. Speaking of which, the Sun Moon sect is also a branch of the Ming dynasty. The first emperor of the Ming dynasty, as well as many founding officials, were all from the Ming dynasty. After the Ming dynasty was established, the emperor was wary of the power of the Ming dynasty and formulated various policies to suppress them. Many people from the Ming dynasty returned to the headquarters of the Ming dynasty, the Kunlun Bright Peak. However, there were still some who didn't want to leave the prosperity of the Central Plains, so they moved to the Blackwood Cliff of Pingding Province. In order to avoid the taboo, they changed their name to the Sun Moon Sect. Dongfang Mushiwa waved her finger, and a few embroidery needles shot into the water. "What are you doing?" Song Qingshu thought there was an enemy. He focused and saw nothing but ripples in the water. "I'm a little hungry, so I was going to catch a few fish. I didn't expect to miss a single one. Could it be that I'm so useless after being injured?" Dongfang Mushiwa was in a daze as she stared at her fingers. Song Qingshu thought for a moment and understood the reason. "It's obvious that you've never caught fish before. Did you shoot the needles directly into the fish's head?" "Of course. Piercing the head with a needle also alleviates their pain." Dongfang Mushiwa nodded. "Because of the water, the head you're aiming for isn't actually where the fish's head is. Why don't you try shooting their tails?" Song Qingshu suddenly felt a sense of superiority in terms of intelligence. Why go through so much trouble? Dongfang Mushiwa had a nagging feeling that Song Qingshu was up to no good. With a slight flick of her wrist, a few fishes were sucked out of the water with a loud bang. She threw them in front of Song Qingshu. "Go and clean them up. I want to eat grilled fish. You really aren't being polite with me. Haven't you heard of this saying? A gentleman stays away from the kitchen in order to avoid the sin of killing," Song Qingshu muttered as he looked at the fat fish that were jumping around. With a flash of cold light, several embroidery needles were shot into the fish's brain. The fish, which was still alive and kicking a moment ago, suddenly stopped moving. How can a man be so indecisive? Dongfang Mushiwa's voice was filled with dissatisfaction. "I killed a fish, all right? Hurry up and get it. I have my own set of standards in my heart." Song Qingshu smiled faintly and did not explain. He took the fish and cut open its belly by the water's edge and washed it. He knew that unless he felt it was necessary, he would rarely trigger his killing intent. Looking at him with satisfaction, Dongfang Mushiwa continued to explain, "Because the Sun Moon sect split from the Ming sect, the Ming sect of the Radiant Summit always calls itself the main sect, while the Sun Moon sect thinks that the Ming sect doesn't have the right to meddle in their internal affairs. For the past 200 years, the conflict between the two sects has escalated. It's never broken. The Ming dynasty has always wanted to gain direct control of the Sun Moon sect, but after 100 years of development, the Sun Moon sect has long become a sect that is no less powerful than the Ming dynasty. Coupled with the selfishness of the successive sect masters, they are naturally unwilling to merge with the Ming dynasty. Now that Zhang Wuji has appeared at Blackwood Cliff, it seems that Ren Wuxing has already reached an agreement with him. In order to regain the position of sect master, he actually betrayed the Sun Moon sect. Very good indeed. Dongfang Mushiwa laughed coldly. It was obvious that she was extremely dissatisfied that Ren Wuxing had found an outsider to meddle in their affairs. Song Qingshu used a wooden stick to skewer the fish and carefully roasted it over the fire. He kept turning it so that the flames would occasionally lick the fish and prevent it from being burned. Watching the fish's skin gradually turn golden, Song Qingshu secretly gulped and asked in confusion. Zhang Wuji has hundreds of thousands of followers, and they are currently fighting against the Mongols and the Hui tribe in the western region for years. How could he have the mood to attack a sect in the pugilistic world? A sect in the pugilistic world? Dongfang Mushiwa sneered. You're underestimating the power of the Sun Moon sect. There are countless small sects and clans under the sect, and they have disciples all over the world. They come from all religions and schools, and there's nothing they don't cover. In terms of information control in the world, even the beggar sect, after it split, is far inferior to the Sun Moon sect. Moreover, as long as I want to, I can gather 100,000 elite soldiers at Blackwood Cliff in a short period of time with a wave of my arm. So awesome? Song Qingshu was stunned, and a faint burnt smell wafted into his nose. It turned out that he was so engrossed in listening that he forgot to turn the roasted fish. He hurriedly took it down and handed it to Dongfang Mushiwa. Dongfang Mushiwa looked at the charred fish skin in disgust. She used her fingertips to tear open the carbonized side and picked up the tender fish inside. She immediately frowned and said, "It's a little fishy, and there's no taste of salt. Do you think this is your haul of accomplishment?" Just put up with it. Song Qing picked up another fish and continued roasting it. When do you plan to return to Blackwood Cliff? Count me in when the time comes. I'll help you. At the end of the day, isn't it because Zhang Wuji is giving you too much pressure? Hearing his words, the lines on Dongfang Mushue's face softened a lot, but her tone was still extremely harsh. If I think about it, it makes sense. If I were Zhou Zhuo, and on one side was a man who commanded thousands of troops and horses, and on the other side was just a lackey of the imperial court with mediocre martial arts, I would naturally choose the former without hesitation. Not to mention that the man was my lover in the past. Don't expose people's shortcomings, and don't hit people in the face. That's enough. Song Qingshu looked at her gloomily. What can you do to me, even if I want to continue? Dongfang Mushue had a smug expression on her face as she looked at him playfully. Bite me? Auntie can tolerate it, but uncle can't either. Song Qingshu threw away the fish in his hand and pounced over. He pressed down on Dongfang Mushue's shoulders, and under her startled gaze, he lightly bit her fair and translucent face. Dongfang Mushue finally reacted. Her face instantly flushed red, and she lifted her leg and kicked Song Qingshu 10 feet away. She stood up and glared at him with a murderous gaze. Her chest rose and fell unsteadily as she stared at him with a murderous gaze. Song Qingshu slowly climbed up from the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. He wiped the corner of his mouth lightly, unable to conceal the smile on his face. I've never heard such a request in my entire life. Since that's the case, how can I not satisfy you? How are you? Seeing the blood trickling down the corner of Song Qingshu's mouth, Dongfang Mushue felt slightly regretful. She had not held back with that kick earlier. If not for the fact that she was heavily injured today, that kick would have killed Song Qingshu long ago. Chapter 169. If you continue to be so smug, I can't guarantee that I won't change my mind. Dongfang Mushue touched the shallow bite marks on her face and suddenly felt a little amused. Are you born in the year of the dog? I'm still hoping that I'm born in the year of the cat. Song Qingshu rubbed his stomach and grimaced in pain. Only 9 lives are enough to spend. Little cat, hurry up and eat the fish. I'm going to meditate and heal. Don't disturb me. As the scalding fish entered her stomach, Dongfang Mushue felt a ball of hot air in her body. She felt much better than before. She hurriedly sat down cross-legged and began to slowly retract the scattered jinqi in her body. Song Qingshu scooped out a piece of black fish meat from the bonfire and quickly stuffed it into his mouth. Then he began to nurse his internal injuries. Nining focused on internal injuries while Divine Reflection focused on external injuries. With the two working together, Song Qingshu thought that he would be able to recover quickly. Who knew that after a while, he would open his eyes in shock. What's wrong? Dongfang Mushue sensed his abnormality and opened her eyes to ask. Nothing. I'm recuperating. Song Qingshu forced a smile and closed his eyes again. When the morning sun shone on her face, Dongfang Mushue opened her eyes. After a night of recuperation, she felt refreshed. Although she was still far from recovering to her peak, she was more than enough to protect herself if she ran into an average martial arts expert. She raised her head to check on Song Qingshu's recovery, but was shocked by his appearance. Song Qingshu was sitting cross-legged on one side of the lawn with a layer of frost on the other, but the other side was charred black. At this moment, his face was alternating between green and red, and he looked like he was in extreme pain. Under his skin, there were visible streams of air flowing around. Dongfang Mushue's expression was solemn. She hurriedly came to his side and hit several major acupoints. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, Dongfang Mushue withdrew her palm and wiped the sweat on her temples. She frowned and asked, "What's wrong with you?" Song Qingshu smiled bitterly and said, "Back then, I was greedy and cultivated 2 different kinds of internal energy at the same time. Now I'm finally suffering. I notice that there's not only an extremely soft and extremely yin qi in your body, but also an extremely hard and extremely yang qi. Do you really think that you're a 1 in a million genius in martial arts? Or do you think that the others in the martial arts world who have painstakingly cultivated one kind of qi are idiots? Who can you blame? Dongfang Mushua didn't know why she was so angry. Of course I thought I was a martial arts genius. When the time comes, I'll create a song of ice and fire with my left hand and fire in my right. That would be as cool as it gets. Song Qingshu beamed with joy as he spoke of his past thoughts. You're still in a mood to joke at a time like this? Dongfang Mushue sneered and said, even with my high cultivation base, I only dare to focus on cultivating the soft yin qi. Your great Shifu, Zhang Sanfeng, who is widely recognized as a great figure in the martial arts world, still focuses on his pure yang limitless technique. At most, he dares to mix in the soft yin qi into his taiji fist. Why don't you let him try cultivating two kinds of internal energy at the same time? Could it be that the martial arts world is just like the torment of ice and fire? Is there no one who can cultivate both yin and yang, true qi, at the same time? Song Qingshu asked in disbelief. Of course there is. In the end, they all end up like you, exploding and dying as they cultivate. Dongfang Mushue grew angrier as she spoke. Since ancient times, legend has it that only Bodhidharma was able to achieve the fusion of yin and yang with the help of the marrow cleansing scripture. However, for thousands of years, no one has seen what the marrow cleansing scripture looks like. People in the martial arts world speculate that the marrow cleansing scripture is just a myth made up by those bald donkeys of the Shaolin Temple to make themselves look good. In any case, I've snuck into the Shaolin Temple's sutra depository a few times, but I've never found this book. Other than Bodhidharma, I've never heard of anyone else who could. As she spoke, Dongfang Mushua suddenly paused, as if remembering something. At first, I used the conception meridian to circulate the godly radiating scripture and the governing meridian to circulate the 9 yin qi, living a peaceful life. Song Qingshu's face was frighteningly dark. But yesterday, I was struck by Zhang Wuji's palm strike with all his might, and the 9 yin qi entered my body. At first, I didn't feel anything, but later, I realized that the 9 yin qi in my body had been corroded by his 9 yang qi, and the balance of yin and yang that I had worked so hard to maintain was completely broken. Now, the 9 yin qi has scattered into my 8 extraordinary meridians, and the violent, godly radiating scripture is running amok in my body. It's no longer under my control, and there's even the possibility of my body exploding and dying at any moment. Haha, I really didn't expect that I'd become a cripple after just a few days of living my life. Song Qingshu laughed self-deprecatingly. As Song Qingshu spoke, he suddenly heard a clear and gentle sound. It sounded like a flute, yet not a flute, yet not a zither. It was like a refreshing drizzle on a hot summer day, and his restless heart slowly calmed down. Lifting his head, he saw Dongfang Mushue standing on a large tree. Her red robes fluttered in the wind, and she was holding a leaf to her lips. That song must have been played by Miss Dongfang using the leaf. A thought struck Song Qingshu, and he closed his eyes to listen carefully. The sound of the song was like gossamer drifting with the wind, continuous and continuous. It also sounded like a person sighing softly, like the morning dew on a flower petal, or the morning breeze brushing the willow branches. When the song ended, Song Qingshu suddenly felt a sense of loss, and the annoyance and nausea in his heart disappeared. Looking at Dongfang Mushue leisurely flying down from the tree, he asked in a daze, "What song was that?" This song is called Qing Chun Elegant Zither. It is neutral and peaceful, and is most suitable to cleanse the heart of distracting thoughts. Dongfang Mushue looked at the slightly damaged leaf in her hand with a regretful expression. "Can you teach me?" When Song Qingshu heard this song in his days, he felt that the celestial music of a jade pool was only SOSO. How was your attainment in music? Dongfang Mushue looked at him deeply and replied after a while. 7 out of 8 orifices opened up, like a drum on a high mountain. The sound can be heard 100 miles away. Song Qingshu said with a blush. "Isn't it just ignorance?" Dongfang Mushue pulled a long face. "Then do you know how to play with the leaf and the technique of changing the tune?" Uh, Judging from your expression, you probably don't know either. Song Qing-shu's face reddened. Do you want to go with a girl? It is very presumptuous of me to learn such a profound song technique. Please forgive this little one's arrogance. It's rare for you to speak so politely. Dongfang Muxue sensed the melancholy and laziness in his tone and was instantly displeased. As a man, what's a momentary setback? Why put on such a dejected look? Didn't you say that no one in the martial world has been able to achieve the unification of yin and yang for thousands of years? With Mrs. Current level, if you say no, then there really isn't, Song Qingshu said in a despondent tone. He had gone through so many hardships and plotted for this grand undertaking. Just as he was about to succeed step by step, it turned out to be a bubble overnight. How could he remain calm? Perhaps there's another way to cure you. For some reason, Dongfang Mushue's voice carried a trace of unnaturalness. What way? Song Qingshu raised his head. A glimmer of hope reignited in his eyes. The time is not ripe yet. Dongfang Muxue shook her head. Accompany me to Yunnan's Five Venoms sect first. I'll naturally tell you when the time comes. Miss, you must think this through. Now that I've lost all my powers, not only will I not be of any help to you when you retake Blackwood Cliff in the future, but I'll also only be a burden. Is it worth your help? If it was any other time, Song Qingshu would have already taken advantage of the situation. All this while, Song Qingshu had always thought that he and Dongfang Muxue were equals. He did not expect that he would lose all his powers and instead need her help. He instantly felt inferior and all sorts of negative emotions exploded out of him. Under the influence of his self-destructive mentality, he spoke with sarcasm in his voice. Do you think that I, Dongfang Booby, am such a short-sighted person? I've lent you a helping hand in your time of need. In the future, you'll repay me 1,000 times over. If you still have doubts, then just treat yourself as a political investment of mine. Dongfang Muxue said calmly, but in her heart, she was thinking, just based on the fact that you've allowed me to touch the clouds in the sky, you're worth my full help. That's good. I feel much better now. Song Qingshu stretched his back, his emotions finally returning to normal. Didn't that little disciple of yours say that the Five Venoms sect is rebelling? Why are you planning to go there? Dongfang Muxue explained. Even though Zhang Wuji witnessed the two of us falling off the cliff and knows that we're dead for sure, I'm afraid that Ren Wuxing will still secretly send people to investigate me. The Sun Moon sect's influence in the Central Plains is too great. If I hide in the Central Plains, I can't guarantee that my whereabouts won't be exposed. I haven't fully recovered from my injuries, so I really can't deal with Ren Wuxing's next move. The Five Venoms sect is different. It's located at the edge of the barren land, so it's hard for outsiders to get any information. Moreover, the sect master, Indigo Phoenix, has always been loyal to me. It's a good place to recuperate in peace. Since Indigo Phoenix has always been loyal to you, I'm sure Ren Wuxing knows this as well. Won't he send people to investigate? Song Qingshu asked. Ren Wuxing needs at least 3 to 5 years to completely unify the elders, hall masters, and the incense deacons in the sect after regaining his position as the sect master. During this period of time, he won't be able to make any big moves. Moreover, the Five Venoms sect has always only submitted to the Blackwood Cliff in name. Even if Ren Wuxing knows that I'm hiding here, he can't do anything. Dongfang Muxue was secretly glad that she sent Chu Fian to Yunnan on a whim. Otherwise, as her confidant, Chu Fian would definitely be harmed by Ren Wuxing. As for the other elders and hall masters who were usually loyal to her, they were merely fence-sitters who knew the times. When she regained control of the Blackwood Cliff in the future, they would naturally stand on her side again. Her only regret was Tong Baixiong. He was truly loyal to his brother, unlike those fence-sitters. It was a pity that he was killed by invincible Dongfang because he offended Yang Lianting. It's a pity that you need 10 years to recover your strength. By then, the world might already be settled. How will you take revenge then? The two of them had a common enemy, and now they were in the same boat. Song Qingshu naturally worried about her. That's why I need your help. Dongfang Muxue said matter-of-factly. But I've lost all my martial arts. Song Qingshu said sadly. Miss, you have to think this through. Now that I've lost all my martial arts, not only will I not be of any help to you in regaining control of the Blackwood Cliff in the future, but I'm also just a burden. Is it worth your help? If it was any other time, Song Qingshu would have already taken advantage of her. All along, Song Qingshu had thought that he and Dongfang Muxue were equals. He didn't expect that he would lose all his martial arts and instead need her help. Instantly, he felt inferior and all sorts of negative emotions burst out. Under the influence of his self-destructive mentality, he spoke with a bit of sarcasm. Do you think that I, invincible Dongfang, am such a short-sighted person? If I help you when you're in danger, you'll repay me 1,000 times over in the future. If you still have doubts, just treat yourself as a political investment of mine. Dongfang Muxue said faintly. But in her heart, she was thinking, just because you let me touch the clouds in the sky, you're worthy of my help. That's good. I feel much better now. Song Qingshu stretched his back, and his emotions finally returned to normal. Didn't that little disciple of yours say that the Five Venoms sect is rebelling? Why are you going there? Dongfang Muxue explained. Although Zhang Wuji saw us fall off the cliff and knows that we're dead for sure, I'm afraid that Ren Wuxing will still secretly send people to investigate me. The Sun Moon sect is too powerful in the Central Plains. If I hide in the Central Plains, I can't guarantee that I won't be exposed. I haven't fully recovered from my injuries, so I really can't deal with Ren Wuxing's next move. The Five Venoms sect is different. It's located in a barren land, so it's hard for outsiders to get any information. Moreover, the sect master, Indigo Phoenix, has always been loyal to me. It's really a good place to recuperate. Since Indigo Phoenix has always been loyal to you, I'm sure Ren Wuxing also knows this. Won't he send people to investigate? Song Qingshu asked. Ren Wuxing will need at least 3 to 5 years to completely unify the elders, hall masters, and the incense deacons in the sect after regaining the position of sect master. He won't be able to make any big moves during this period of time. Moreover, the Five Venom sect has always only submitted to the Blackwood Cliff in name. Even if Ren Wuxing knows that I'm hiding here, he can't do anything. Dongfang Muxue was secretly glad that she sent Chu Fian to Yunnan on a whim. Otherwise, as her confidant, Chu Fian would definitely be harmed by Ren Wuxing. As for the other elders and hall masters who were usually loyal to her, they were just fence-sitters. When she regained control of the Blackwood Cliff in the future, they would naturally stand on her side. Her only regret was Tong Baixiong. He was really loyal to his brother, unlike those fence-sitters. Unfortunately, he was killed by invincible Dongfang because he offended Yang Lianting. It's a pity that you need 10 years to recover your strength. By then, the world might already be settled. How are you going to take revenge then? The two of them had a common enemy, and now they were in the same boat. Song Qingshu naturally worried about her. That's why I need your help. Dongfang Muxue said matter-of-factly. But I've lost all my martial arts. Song Qingshu said dejectedly. Miss, you have to think this through. Now that I've lost all my martial arts, not only will I not be of any help to you in regaining control of the Blackwood Cliff in the future, I'll even be a burden. Is it worth your help? If it was any other time, Song Qingshu would have already taken advantage of her. All this while, Song Qingshu had always thought that he and Dongfang Muxue were equals. He didn't expect that he would lose all his martial arts and instead need her help. Instantly, he felt inferior and all sorts of negative emotions burst out. Under the influence of his self-destructive mentality, he spoke with a bit of sarcasm. Do you think that I, invincible Dongfang, am such a short-sighted person? I helped you when you were in danger, and in the future, you will repay me 1,000 times over. If you still have doubts in your heart, then just treat yourself as a political investment of mine. Dongfang Muxue said calmly, but in her heart, she was thinking, just because you let me touch the clouds in the sky, you are worthy of my help. That's good. I feel much better now. Song Qingshu stretched his back, and his emotions finally returned to normal. Didn't that little disciple of yours say that the Five Venoms sect is rebelling? Why are you going there? Dongfang Muxue explained. Even though Zhang Wuji saw us fall off the cliff and knows that we're dead for sure, I'm afraid that Ren Wuxing will still secretly send people to investigate me. The Sun-Moon sect's influence in the Central Plains is too great. If I hide in the Central Plains, I can't guarantee that my whereabouts won't be exposed. I haven't fully recovered from my injuries, so I really can't deal with Ren Wuxing's next move. The Five Venoms sect is different. It's located at the edge of the Barren Land, so it's hard for outsiders to get any information. Moreover, the sect master, Indigo Phoenix, has always been loyal to me. It's really a good place to rest and recuperate. Since Indigo Phoenix has always been loyal to you, I'm sure Ren Wuxing also knows this. Won't he send people to investigate? Song Qingshu asked. For Ren Wuxing to regain his position as the sect leader, it will take at least 3 to 5 years for him to completely reorganize the elders, the various hall masters, and the various incense masters. During this period of time, he won't be able to make any big movements. Furthermore, the Five Poison sect has always only submitted to Blackwood Cliff in name. Even if Ren Wuxing knows that I'm hiding here, he can't do anything. Dongfang Muxue was secretly glad that she sent Chu Fian to Yunnan on a whim. Otherwise, as her confidant, Chu Fian would definitely be harmed by Ren Wuxing. As for the other elders and hall masters who were usually loyal to her, they were merely fence-sitters who knew the times. When she regained control of the Blackwood Cliff in the future, they would naturally stand on her side. Her only regret was Tong Baixiong. He was really loyal to his brother, unlike those fence-sitters. It was a pity that he was killed by invincible Dongfang because he offended Yang Lianting. It's a pity that you need 10 years to recover your strength. By then, the world might already be settled. How will you take revenge then? The two of them had a common enemy and were now on the same boat. Song Qingshu naturally began to worry for her. That's why I need your help, Dongfang Muxue said matter-of-factly. But I've lost all my martial arts, Song Qingshu said dejectedly. Miss, you have to think this through. Now that I've lost all my martial arts, not only will I not be of any help to you in regaining control of the Blackwood Cliff in the future, but I'm also just a burden. Is it worth your help? If it was any other time, Song Qingshu would have already taken advantage of her. All along, Song Qingshu had thought that he and Dongfang Muxue were equals. He didn't expect that he would lose all his martial arts and instead need her help. He immediately felt inferior and all kinds of negative emotions burst out. Under the influence of his self-destructive mentality, he said with a bit of sarcasm in his voice, "Do you think that I, invincible Dongfang, am such a short-sighted person? I helped you when you were in danger, and you'll repay me 1,000 times in the future. If you still have doubts, just think of yourself as a political investment." Dongfang Muxue said lightly, but in her heart she thought, "Just because you let me touch the clouds in the sky, you're worthy of my help." That's good. I feel much better now. Song Qingshu stretched his back, and his emotions finally returned to normal. Didn't that little disciple of yours say that the Five Venoms sect is rebelling? Why are you going there? Dongfang Muxue explained. Although Zhang Wuji saw us fall off the cliff and knows that we're dead for sure, I'm afraid that Ren Wuxing will still secretly send people to investigate me. The Sun-Moon sect is too powerful in the Central Plains. If I hide in the Central Plains, I can't guarantee that I won't be exposed. I haven't recovered from my injuries, so I really can't deal with Ren Wuxing's next move. The Five Venoms sect is different. It's located at the border, and it's hard for outsiders to get any information. Moreover, the Blue Phoenix has always been loyal to me. It's really a good place to rest and recuperate. Since the Blue Phoenix has always been loyal to you, Ren Wuxing must know this. Won't he send people to investigate? Song Qingshu asked. For Ren Wuxing to regain his position as the sect leader, it'll take at least 3 to 5 years for him to completely reorganize the elders, the various hall masters, and the various incense masters. During this period of time, he won't be able to make any big movements. Furthermore, the Five Poison sect has always only submitted to Blackwood Cliff in name. Even if Ren Wuxing knows that I'm hiding here, he can't do anything. Dongfang Muxue was secretly glad that she sent Chu Fian to Yunnan on a whim. Otherwise, as her confidant, Chu Fian would definitely be harmed by run-washing. As for the other elders and hall masters who were usually loyal to her, they were just fence-sitters. When she regained control of the Blackwood Cliff, they would naturally stand on her side. Her only regret was Tong Baixiong. He was really loyal to his brother, unlike those fence-sitters. It was a pity that he was killed by invincible Dongfang because he offended Yang Lianting. It's a pity that you need 10 years to recover your strength. By then, the world might be settled. How are you going to take revenge? The two of them had a common enemy, and now they were in the same boat. Song Qingshu naturally worried for her. That's why I need your help, Dongfang Muxue said matter-of-factly. But I've lost all my martial arts, Song Qingshu said dejectedly. Miss, you have to think this through. Now that I've lost all my martial arts, not only will I not be of any help to you in regaining control of the Blackwood Cliff, but I'll also be a burden. Is it worth your help? If it was any other time, Song Qingshu would have taken advantage of the situation. All along, Song Qingshu had thought that he and Dongfang Muxue were equals. He didn't expect that he would lose all his martial arts and instead need her help. He instantly felt inferior, and all sorts of negative emotions exploded out. Under the influence of his self-destructive mentality, he said with a bit of sarcasm, "Do you think that I, invincible Dongfang, am such a short-sighted person? I helped you when you were in danger, and in the future, you will repay me 1,000 times over. If you still have doubts, then just treat yourself as a political investment of mine," Dongfang Muxue said lightly. But in her heart, she was thinking, just because you let me touch the clouds and the sky, it's worth it for me to help you. That's good. I feel much better now. Song Qingshu stretched his back, and his emotions finally returned to normal. Didn't that little disciple of yours say that the Five Venoms sect is rebelling? Why are you going there? Dongfang Muxue explained. Even though Zhang Wuji saw us fall off the cliff and knows that we're dead for sure, I'm afraid that Ren Wuxing will still secretly send people to investigate me. The Sun Moon sect's influence in the Central Plains is too great. If I hide in the Central Plains, I can't guarantee that my whereabouts won't be exposed. I haven't fully recovered from my injuries, so I really can't deal with Ren Wuxing's next move. The Five Venoms sect is different. It's located at the edge of the barren land, so it's hard for outsiders to get any information. Moreover, the Blue Phoenix has always been loyal to me, so it's really a good place to rest and recuperate. Since the Blue Phoenix has always been loyal to you, I'm sure Ren Wuxing knows this as well. Won't he send people to investigate? Song Qingshu asked. Ren Wuxing needs at least 3 to 5 years to completely unify the elders, hall masters, and the incense deacons in the sect once he regains his position as the sect master. During this period of time, he won't be able to make any big moves. Moreover, the Five Venoms sect has always been loyal to the Blackwood Cliff in name only. Even if Ren Wuxing knows that I'm hiding here, he can't do anything. Dongfang Muxue was secretly glad that she sent Chu Fian to Yunnan on a whim. Otherwise, as her confidant, Chu Fian would definitely be harmed by Ren Wuxing. As for the other elders and hall masters who were usually loyal to her, they were just fence-sitters. When she regained control of the Blackwood Cliff in the future, they would naturally stand on her side again. Her only regret was Tong Baixiong. He was really loyal to his brother, unlike those fence-sitters. Unfortunately, he was killed by Dongfang Bubi because he offended Yang Lianting. It's a pity that you need 10 years to recover your strength. By then, the world might already be settled. How will you take revenge then? The two of them had a common enemy, and now they were in the same boat. Song Qingshu naturally worried about her. That's why I need your help, Dongfang Muxue said as a matter of fact. But I've lost all my martial arts, Song Qingshu said sadly. Miss, you have to think this through. Now that I've lost all my martial arts, not only will I not be of any help to you in regaining control of the Blackwood Cliff in the future, but I'm also just a burden. Is it worth your help? If it was any other time, Song Qingshu would have already taken advantage of her. All along, Song Qingshu had thought that he and Dongfang Muxue were equals. He didn't expect that he would lose all his martial arts and instead need her help. Instantly, he felt inferior and all kinds of negative emotions burst out. Under the influence of his self-destructive mentality, he said with a bit of sarcasm, "Do you think that I, Dongfang Booby, am such a short-sighted person? If I help you when you're in danger, you'll repay me 1,000 times over in the future. If you still have doubts, just think of yourself as a political investment," Dongfang Mushua said faintly, but in her heart, she was thinking, "Just because you let me touch the clouds in the sky, you're worth my help. That's good. I feel much better now." Song Qing-shu stretched his back, and his emotions finally returned to normal. "Didn't that little disciple of yours say that the Five Venoms sect is rebelling? Why are you going there?" Dongfang Mushua explained, "Although Zhang Wuji saw us fall into the cliff and knows that we're dead for sure, I'm afraid that Ren Wuxing will still secretly send people to investigate me. The Sun Moon sect is too powerful in the Central Plains. If I hide in the Central Plains, I can't guarantee that I won't be exposed. I haven't fully recovered from my injuries, so I really can't deal with Ren Wuxing's next move. The Five Venoms sect is different. It's located in a barren land, so it's hard for outsiders to get any information. Moreover, the sect master, Indigo Phoenix, has always been loyal to me. It's really a good place to rest and recuperate. Since Indigo Phoenix has always been loyal to you, I'm sure Ren Wuxing also knows this. Won't he send people to investigate?" Song Qingshu asked. "Ren Wuxing will need at least 3 to 5 years to completely unify the elders, hall masters, and the incense deacons in the sect after regaining the position of sect master. He won't be able to do anything during this period of time. Moreover, the Five Venom sect has always been loyal to the Blackwood Cliff in name only. Even if Ren Wuxing knows that I'm hiding here, he can't do anything." Dongfang Mushue was secretly glad that she sent Chu Fian to Yunnan on a whim. Otherwise, as her confidant, Chu Fian would definitely be harmed by Ren Wuxing. As for the other elders and hall masters who were usually loyal to her, they were just fence-sitters. When she regained control of the Blackwood Cliff in the future, they would naturally stand on her side. Her only regret was Tong Baixiong. He was really loyal to his brother, unlike those fence-sitters. Unfortunately, he was killed by invincible Dongfang because he offended Yang Lianting. It's a pity that you need 10 years to recover your strength. By then, the world might already be settled. How are you going to take revenge then? The two of them had a common enemy, and now they were in the same boat. Song Qing-shu naturally worried about her. "That's why I need your help," Dongfang Mushua said matter-of-factly. Chapter 170. "Miss, you have to think this through. Now that I've lost all my powers, not only will I not be of any help to you when you retake Blackwood Cliff, but I'll also be a burden. Am I worth your help?" If it was any other time, Song Qing-shu would have already taken advantage of her. All along, Song Qing-shu had thought that he and Dongfang Mushue were equals. He did not expect that he would lose all his strength and instead need to rely on her for help. Instantly, he felt inferior and all sorts of negative emotions burst out. Under the influence of his self-destructive mentality, he spoke in a somewhat hostile manner. "Do you think that I, Dongfang Booby, am such a short-sighted person? I helped you when you were in danger, and you'll repay me 1,000 times in the future. If you still have doubts, just think of yourself as a political investment," Dongfang Mushua said faintly, but in her heart, she was thinking, "Just because you let me touch the clouds in the sky, you're worthy of my help. That's good. I feel much better now." Song Qing-shu stretched his back, and his emotions finally returned to normal. "Didn't your little disciple say that the Five Venoms sect is rebelling? Why are you going there?" Dongfang Mushue explained, "Although Zhang Wuji saw us fall into the cliff and knows that we're dead for sure, I'm afraid that Ren Wuxing will still secretly send people to investigate me. The Sun Moon sect is too powerful in the Central Plains. If I hide in the Central Plains, I can't guarantee that I won't be exposed. I haven't fully recovered from my injuries, so I can't deal with Ren Wuxing's next move. The Five Venoms sect is different. It's located in a barren land, so it's hard for outsiders to get any information. Moreover, The sect master, Indigo Phoenix, has always been loyal to me. It's a good place to rest and recuperate. Since Indigo Phoenix has always been loyal to you, Renwishing must know this. Won't he send people to investigate? Song Qing-shu asked. For Renwishing to regain his position as the sect leader, it will take at least 3 to 5 years for him to completely reorganize the elders, the various hall masters, and the various incense masters. During this period of time, he won't be able to make any big movements. Furthermore, the Five Poison sect has always only submitted to Blackwood Cliff in name. Even if Renwishing knows that I'm hiding here, he can't do anything. Dongfang Muxue secretly rejoiced that she had sent Chu Fian to Yunnan on a whim. Otherwise, as her confidant, she would definitely be harmed by Renwishing. As for the other elders and hall masters who were usually loyal to her, they were just fence-sitters. When she regained control of Blackwood Cliff in the future, they would naturally stand on her side. Her only regret was Tong Baixiong. He was really loyal to his brother, unlike those fence-sitters. It was a pity that he was killed by Dongfang Bubi because he offended Yang Lianting. It's a pity that you need 10 years to recover your strength. By then, the world might already be settled. How are you going to take revenge then? The two of them had a common enemy, and now they were in the same boat. Song Qing-shu naturally worried about her. That's why I need your help, Dongfang Muxue said matter-of-factly. But I've lost all my martial arts. Song Qing-shu said dejectedly. What happened to the spirit you had when you were clamoring to be my man? Dongfang Muxue comforted him. Don't worry. Even without martial arts, you still have your brain. You won't be completely useless. That's true. Even a piece of toilet paper has its uses. Song Qing-shu's fighting spirit was instantly reignited. He only felt that all kinds of ideas were flooding into his mind. Even if you can't recover, it's not impossible for you to regain control of Blackwood Cliff. Renwishing is only relying on Xiang Wentian and Ling Huchong. This time, Renwishing can see the light of day again. The person he should thank the most is Xiang Wentian. However, it's not uncommon for a great benefactor to turn into an enemy. As the leader of a sect, Renwishing must have a thorn in his heart when he was rescued by a subordinate. In addition, he sees Xiang Wentian frequently every day. It's inevitable that he'll remember how Xiang Wentian saw his pathetic state in the black prison of Westlake. He'll definitely feel uneasy. As long as we make use of it, it won't be difficult for Renwishing to destroy himself. As for Ling Huchong, we can make use of his views on good and evil. We can even think of a way to destroy his relationship with Miss Run and provoke him in a falling out with Renwishing. At that time, Renwishing will be left alone. It won't be difficult to deal with him. Hearing his words, Dongfang Muxue finally revealed a satisfied smile. Clasping her hands behind her back, she looked at the rising sun and said, I'm more curious about how you plan to drive a wedge between Ling Huchong and Ren Ying. From what I know, the two of them went through a lot of hardships to get together. I'm afraid it won't be easy to break them apart. Song Qing-shu said confidently. Although they seem to be in love on the surface, there's a huge hidden danger between them. That is Ling Huchong's feelings for his junior sister, Yuling Shan. If I'm not wrong, Ling Huchong still loves his junior sister the most. As long as we make an issue out of this, no matter how magnanimous Ren Ying is, she's still a woman. A woman's natural jealousy will become a sharp weapon in our hands. I'm also a woman. What part of me do you think you can make use of? Hearing his words, Dongfang Muxue's expression turned ugly. How could I? Song Qing-shu smiled embarrassedly. Big sister, your martial arts are unparalleled in the world. You're also a national beauty. Furthermore, you don't have any feelings for me. I really can't find any weakness to make use of. You don't. Dongfang Muxue's face darkened. If you hadn't found Feng Qingyang back then, would I be in such a sorry state now? We were enemies back then, not friends. Song Qing-shu thought about how he had schemed against her quite a few times and felt rather embarrassed. The only thing worth rejoicing about is that you, a little bastard with a belly full of evil tricks, are now on my side. Dongfang Muxue said gloomily. Although I'm a little unscrupulous at times, I feel that I can still be considered a good person overall. Song Qingshu felt the need to emphasize this point. In my heart, there's no such thing as a good person or a bad person. Dongfang Muxue shook her head nonchalantly. There are only useful people and useless people. All right, you can supplement the method you use to deal with Ling Hu Chong and Ren Ying. Supplement what? Song Qingshu was surprised. A playful smile appeared on Dongfang Mushue's face. On one hand, we can use you Lingshan to deal with Ling Hu Chong. On the other hand, we can use you to deal with Ren Ying. Using both methods at the same time, we can guarantee that they'll be separated. You think too highly of me. Song Qingshu smiled bitterly. Big sister, it's not like you haven't seen how I treated her on Blackwood Cliff. If she sees me again, she'll tear me apart. Chapter 171. Hey. What do you mean seducing women is my forte? Song Qingshu was speechless. Who am I seducing? That little widow of a Yuan family. Her husband had only died for a short period of time, and she was already in bed with you. And a usually calm and poised young Miss Ren was also blushing with just a few words from you. Dongfang Muxue counted on her fingers and started to count for him. All right. Song Qingshu wisely gave up on arguing with her. Let's think of a way to get out of the valley first. It'll be a tragedy if Zhang Wuji and Ren Wuxing find us. Are you unable to use your inner force now? You can't use your Qinggong either, right? Dongfang Muxue felt a headache when she thought of the fact that there was no way out of the valley and they could only climb out from the two cliffs. Seeing that Song Qingshu nodded, Dongfang Muxue reached out to grab his belt and flew out. My waist is broken. My waist is broken. Song Qingshu gasped as he was lifted into the air. Seeing that he was getting further and further away from the ground, he clawed at his surroundings with all his limbs. Dongfang Muxue felt her thighs being hugged by him. Before she could reprimand him, his limbs had already wrapped around her legs like an octopus. She felt her body sink and quickly pulled Song Qingshu into her arms. She said coldly, "You're hugging my legs. Do you want us to fall to our deaths?" There were many types of Qinggong that martial artists knew, but even if you were as light as a swallow, you still wouldn't be able to escape. You had to use your legs as leverage. If you knew this would happen, you should have hugged me just now. Song Qingshu had just heaved a sigh of relief when he felt a softness everywhere he touched. After a moment of surprise, he was overjoyed and immediately rested his head on Dongfang Mushue's shoulder. "Stay away from my body. You're not my boy toy. Don't act like a woman." Dongfang Muxue felt a layer of goosebumps on her neck and quickly backed away. "Sister, why don't you consider taking me in as your male pet?" Song Qingshu's eyes lit up. Dongfang Muxue was both annoyed and amused at the same time. She glared at him and said, "If you continue to spout nonsense, I'll throw you down." Halfway through her sentence, she felt the hands around her waist tighten even more, and there seemed to be heat coming from his body. She could only swallow the second half of her sentence and increase her speed to fly out of the valley. "Haven't you hugged enough? Get down." Dongfang Muxue saw that Song Qingshu had no intention of letting go even after landing on the ground. She circulated her jinqi and shook it lightly. Song Qingshu felt his hands go numb as he was pushed 3 feet away. Noticing Dongfang Mushue's dark expression, Song Qingshu quickly changed the topic with a smile. "Let's talk about how to learn the Qingshun elegant zither." Dongfang Muxue snorted coldly and turned to head south. "Hey, wait for me." Song Qingshu hurriedly chased after her, and the two figures, one red and one green, gradually disappeared into the forest. Western region, Sea of Constellations, secret chamber. An old man sat on a chair in the center. He was waving a goose feather fan in his hand, and his face was flushed red. He had a head full of white hair and 3 strands of silver beard under his chin. He had a youthful complexion and white hair. He truly looked like a celestial being from a painting. Ha! The 5 venom sex poison techniques are indeed extraordinary. Unfortunately, they still can't compare to me, the star constellation immortal, The woman in front of him had a pair of phoenix eyes and long eyebrows that reached her temples. She was extremely beautiful, but her left hand was wrapped with a black, poison-dipped iron hook. In contrast to her slender right hand, she looked exceptionally seductive. This was the five-venom sex he ties ho. I've heard that the star constellation Immortal's poison techniques have reached perfection. Out of admiration, I traveled 1,000 miles to visit you. Is the old Immortal going to greet me with heart-refining bullets, jade phosphorus needles, and invisible powder? Hichiesho's tone was gentle as she pretended to be coquettish. Star constellation Immortal Ding Chuanxiu laughed dryly. Since you're here to visit me, why do you need to use one of five venoms sex two great poisons, the jade silkworm venom? If it weren't for the old Immortal's skill in using poisons, I'm afraid I would have fallen into the little baby's evil hands. Hitaizo calmly replied, I've heard that the old Immortal is very interested in all the poisons in the world. How could I dare to use ordinary poisons to dirty the old Immortal's eyes? That's why I used the most powerful jade silkworm venom to show my respect. I didn't expect that the old Immortal's skill was unparalleled. It was so easy to deal with it. In my opinion, White Camel Villa's Ouyang Feng's title of Western Poison should be the old Immortal's. Ding Chunxiu revealed a proud expression. Itiesho's words had scratched the itch in his heart. He had always felt that his skill in poison was #1 in the world. Who would have thought that the title of Western Poison would be given to Ouyang Feng? He had long wanted to go to White Camel Villa and compete with Ouyang Feng. It was only after he heard that Ouyang Feng had gone to the Jin Kingdom to become an official that he gave up the idea. Miss He, you praise me too much. Ouyang Feng does have some skills. May I know why Miss has come to the Sea of Constellations this time? As he spoke, his demeanor became amiable. It turned out that when Taizo heard that Yuan Qingji had been killed by Dongfang Bubi, he wanted to avenge him. Thus, he decided to compete with Indigo Phoenix for the position of the five poison sex leader. In recent years, the He family's power was higher than the Lan family's. Indigo Phoenix was already losing ground, but unfortunately, Dongfang Bubi sent Chu Fian over. Although Chu Fian was young, as Dongfang Bubi's only disciple, her martial arts were not weak. Hitaizo no longer had an advantage in martial arts. In terms of using poison, he could not compare to Indigo Phoenix, and gradually fell into a disadvantage. Hitaizo could also be considered a rare genius of the He family. He knew that if this continued, he would only be defeated. Thus, he decided to look for external support. Ding Chunxiu was one of them. Hitaizo hoped to use him to restrain Indigo Phoenix in the field of poison. Hearing the other party's intentions, Ding Chunxiu was rather moved. He thought to himself, in recent years, I have already encountered a bottleneck in my use of poison. I have long heard that the five poison sect is proficient in using poison. Perhaps I can comprehend many things by analogy. Especially their sect's golden silkworm goo poison is one of the top 10 poisons in the world. However, Ding Chunxiu did not show these thoughts on his face. His expression was indifferent, appearing to lack interest. The Sea of Constellations is more than 1,000 miles away from the five poison sect. This old man does not have the time to run over to help you fight for power, seizing the benefits. The other party's reaction was not out of Tiesho's expectations. He only saw her laugh delicately. Naturally, I would not dare to let old Immortal make a wasted trip. After the matter is done, I will naturally offer something to you. I guarantee that old Immortal will be satisfied. Ding Chunxiu saw that her expression was flirtatious. The corners of her eyes were filled with lust, and there seemed to be a hint of licentiousness in her words. He couldn't help but frown. This old man has never been fond of women. Besides, I am old enough to be your grandfather. Hitaizo knew that he had misunderstood. His face reddened, and he cursed in his heart. This old pervert, his brain is filled with filthy thoughts. Old Immortal, you have misunderstood. What I'm talking about is the most mean and coldest creature in the world, Ice Silkworm. Ice Silkworm. Ding Chunxiu was taken aback. However, he was still a master of poison after all. He quickly recalled the relevant records. Ice Silkworm, extremely mean in nature, extremely poisonous. It is found in the desolate north underworld. It feeds on leaves, and its silk is extremely tough. Blades and swords cannot break it. When used to make zither strings, it is far better than ordinary silk. However, it melts upon contact with fire. Chapter 172. Do you think I am an idiot? Ding Chuanxiu's face was covered in a layer of frost. Ice silkworms are creatures that only appear in legends. Even if they exist, they should be found in the extreme northern snowy mountains. How could they appear in the hot and humid lands of Yunnan? I do not dare to lie to you. Please listen to me slowly. He Taizo bowed and said slowly, You must know that our 5-poison sect is best at refining poisonous insects. The most poisonous thing is the golden silkworm's poison. We usually collect hundreds of insects during the Dragon Boat Festival and place them in a jar to kill each other. A year later, when we open the jar, what remains is a golden silkworm. Legend has it that the golden silkworm's poison is formless and colorless. Those who are poisoned feel as if thousands of insects are biting their bodies. The pain is unbearable, and they cannot live or die. Ding Chuanxiu spoke with a fascinated expression. The golden silkworm's method has been passed down from generation to generation in the 5-poison sect. Every sect leader only had to copy it. However, when it was passed down to the previous sect leader, a question arose in her heart. The golden silkworm obtained from the killing of hundreds of insects is already one of the top 10 poisonous creatures in the world. If 100 golden silkworms were placed together to kill each other, what would be produced in the end? He Taizo purposely stopped talking and looked at Ding Chuanxiu. Could it be the ice silkworm? Ding Chuanxiu noticed her expression and his heart moved. That's right. He Taizo nodded. The previous sect leader did not expect the golden silkworms to fight and produce an ancient divine creature. Unfortunately, refining 100 golden silkworms exhausted her efforts. When she saw the ice silkworm, she passed away with a smile on her face. Because the sect leader was focused on refining the golden silkworm, she did not appoint a successor. Originally, in the next generation, based on martial arts and talent, I had the highest chance of succeeding the sect leader's position. Unfortunately, when the sect leader passed away, I was not in the 5-poison sect. Thus, some people with ulterior motives took the opportunity to make Indigo Phoenix the sect leader. All right, I will help Missy regain the sect leader's position as long as you do not forget your promise. Ding Chuanxiu said happily. Most of his poison skills came from the poisonous insects refined by the divine Wood King Cauldron. If he could refine the legendary ice silkworm, he would be invincible. I would not dare to lie to you. He Taizo smiled. Damned brother, smelly brother. I even lost my most beloved lightning sable for you. But you only care about your own free and unfettered life, messing around with the heavenly king and Lady Changmu. You didn't even think about me. In a dense forest in Yunnan, a 16 or 17-year-old girl was wandering around. She was wearing a skirt that reached her chest. Her face was rosy, and her small mouth was slightly open. Although her mouth seemed to be expressing her dissatisfaction with her lover, she didn't have the viciousness of a jealous woman. Instead, she had an innocent look, which was indescribably pure and cute. It turned out that she was the first girl whom Duan Yu had a crush on in Demigods and Semi-Devils, Zhongling. Unfortunately, fate played tricks on people, and in the end, she discovered that Duan Yu had become her biological brother. However, she had a candid nature and wasn't as extreme as Mu Wanqing. Although she was extremely upset at first, after a while, her thoughts faded. She had accepted the fact that she was Duan Yu's younger sister from the bottom of her heart. Because her heart ached for the loss of her pet lightning sable, Zhongling decided to go to the primeval forest to see if she could find another lightning sable youngling and tame it. Little sister, your brother doesn't miss you, but I've always missed you. A familiar, perverted voice suddenly sounded in Zhongling's ears. She raised her head and saw a thin, middle-aged man sitting among the trees. He was scratching his chin with his hand and staring at her with a burning gaze. Zhongling was so frightened that she screamed. Her voice was immediately filled with panic. Yun, Yin Zhanghe, why are you here? Boss was invited to Yunnan by someone, so we brothers came to help him. I didn't expect to be so lucky as to accidentally meet you, Miss Zhong. After the trip to Myriad Tribulations Valley last time, I really yearned for you and your mother day and night. One is gentle and charming, and the other is bright and beautiful. What virtue or ability does Zhong Wancho have to be so blessed with women? One day, Yun Zhonghe, will kill his husband and take his wife. I will get his wealth and live in the valley. Looking at the lovely Zhong Ling, Yun Zhonghe couldn't help but think of Gan Baobao's mature and plump body, as well as her delicate and charming temperament. Moreover, the mother and daughter looked 60 to 70% similar. When Yun Zhonghe thought of their beauty, he felt a gush of hot air rushing to 3 inches below his navel. He thought to himself, if I can hug the mother and daughter and have fun in Myriad Tribulations Valley all day long, I won't even be a perverted thief anymore. I'll turn over a new leaf. Help! Help! Zhong Ling screamed and ran. Unfortunately, Yin Zhonghe's lightness skill was too good. Every time Zhong Ling ran a few steps, she found that Yin Zhonghe was already standing in front of her, smiling lewdly at her. Little beauty, come to big brother's arms. After running back and forth a few times, Zhong Ling was out of breath. She made up her mind, grabbed a poisonous snake from her waist pouch, and threw it at Yin Zhonghe. Yin Zhonghe dodged it slightly and said with a smile, snakes are lascivious by nature. It seems that Miss Zhong's hobbies are quite similar to mine. Zhong Ling was angry and afraid. She screamed subconsciously. Scream, scream. Even if you scream yourself hoarse, no one will come to save you. Like a cat playing with its prey, Yun Zhonghe was not in a hurry to act. Instead, he calmly began to tease her. Horse, horse. Zhong Ling was stunned. Suddenly, she opened her mouth and shouted again. Horse. A coquettish laughter came from nearby. She had been watching from the side for a long time. When she heard Zhong Ling scream herself hoarse, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. Who is it? Yin Zhonghe was surprised and delighted. He was surprised because if the other party hadn't spoken, he wouldn't have noticed her at all. He was delighted because the person's voice was delicate and soft. The owner must be a coquettish woman. Not far away, behind a big tree, a woman of about 23 or 24 years old appeared. She wore a golden ring on her head, white clothes, and bare feet. Around her waist was an embroidered belt. Her skin was white and smooth like jade. At this moment, she was covering her mouth with her long sleeves. Her body was like a swaying flower branch. She was truly charming and flirtatious. I didn't expect that Yin Zhonghe, would have such good luck with women today. Seeing her like this, his body was already weak. Suddenly, he noticed the black iron hook in his left hand. His expression changed. You are, Lao Si. Don't be rude to sect leader he. An extremely unpleasant voice sounded in the air. After a few sounds of breaking air, Zhong Ling's vision blurred. Then, 2 men and a woman stood in front of her. Yin Lao Si, you're already so thin, but you still think about women all day long. What's so good about women? How can they compare to the wonders of martial arts? A man with an unusually large head laughed. His wide mouth revealed dense white teeth, but his eyes were round and small, like 2 beans. He was of medium build, with a stout upper body and thin lower limbs. Below his chin was a tuft of steel-like beard. He wore a yellow robe that only reached his knees. The robe was made of fine brocade and looked very luxurious. He wore a pair of coarse pants that were dirty and ragged. It was difficult to distinguish the color. He was one of the 4 great evildoers, the southern sea crocodile god, Yu Lao San. Chapter 173. You're sick in the head. Not only were you tricked into becoming a disciple by a silly boy, but you're still so loyal. Yun Zhong, he had never been on good terms with Yu Lao San. He said disdainfully, the thing is that the boy's luck with women is pretty good. Every time I fancy a woman, it's always your mistress. My master is young, handsome, and skilled in martial arts. It's not surprising that many women like him. Unlike you, you only know how to force yourself on women. Why don't you take a look at your face? Which woman would like you? Yu Laosen patted his chest and said in a rough voice, I won't say I'm better than Panin, but I'm more than enough to beat you. Yunjong, he crossed his arms and sneered. You skinny bamboo pole, you don't have much meat on your body. Are you as tall and powerful as I am? Yu Laosen took out his crocodile beak scissors and stabbed it into the ground. Sparks flew everywhere. Yunjong, he took a step back subconsciously, holding his silver crane claw. What, you want to fight? Stop, both of you. Boss has something to discuss with him. We don't want to be laughed at by outsiders. A rather good-looking middle-aged woman at the side couldn't bear to watch any longer. There were 3 bloodstains on each of her cheeks. Her face looked miserable, as if it was hiding endless sorrow and sorrow. She was one of the 4 great evildoers, second Mother Yi, who committed all kinds of crimes. Yu Laosan and Yunjong, he had always respected their boss. They shut their mouths and looked at Duan Yanqing. Duan Yanqing's face was completely disfigured. Both of his legs were crippled. His whole body weight was supported by 2 iron crutches. Itiesho's heart was filled with sympathy. Looking at the injuries on his body, I don't know what kind of tragic event he went through in the past. I lost one of my hands, but he lost both of his legs. Don't worry, leader he. With my help, it'll be easy to help you seize the 5 poison sect. Duan Yanqing said conceitedly. In terms of martial arts, he didn't care about anyone in the 5 poison sect. In terms of using poison, the 4 evildoers weren't bad. His sorrowful, paralyzing wind could make countless masters in Jianghu pale. What arrogance! A burst of laughter was heard from afar. Everyone heard the faint sound of stringed instruments and looked up. In the distant forest, a group of people was walking slowly towards them. When they were about 100 feet away, they stopped and said in unison, The constellation Old Immortal has arrived in the Central Plains. As soon as they stopped, they started beating the drums. The drum was struck thrice, the gong sounded, and the drum stopped. In the northwest corner, more than 20 people were lined up in a row. Some were holding gongs and drums. Some were holding long banners and embroidered banners. The red and green banners were very pleasing to the eye. Looking from afar, the banners were embroidered with the words Xingxiu Lao Xian, magical powers vast, magical power boundless, awe-inspiring the world, and so on. Amidst the sounds of drums and gongs, an old man slowly walked out. Behind him, dozens of people lined up in 2 rows, several dozen feet away from him. The old man had white hair and a youthful complexion. He was fair and plump, but he also had a kind countenance. It was the old monster of Constellation, Ding Chuanxiu. Oh, you're playing and singing. Are you performing a ritual? Yunjong, he was amused when he saw this. Ding Chuanxiu's expression turned cold, and he waved the goose feather fan in his hand. Duan Yanqing waved his iron staff, and a gust of true qi gushed out, blowing the green smoke onto a tree at the side. The tree looked as if it had been splashed with acid, and it immediately withered and turned black. It was a very frightening sight. What a deep inner force! Ding Chuanxiu was secretly impressed. Seeing the other party leaping over, he immediately waved his fan to meet him. Duan Yanqing was afraid of his poison technique, so he used the wrought iron staff to point at the air, shooting out the solitary yang finger. Ding Chuanxiu couldn't touch his body, so he couldn't use his art of transformation, so he was helpless. Both of you are my honored guests. This is just a misunderstanding. I hope you can stop. Tai's Ho waved her white hand, and a dark red, soft rope struck between the two of them. Duan Yanqing was the head of the 4 great evildoers, and Ding Chuanxiu was also the poison devil of his generation. Both of them had some misgivings about each other, so when they heard He Tiesho's words, they took the opportunity to separate. Cult leader He's soft rainbow spider rope is indeed impressive. Duan Yanqing was secretly impressed. When he was her age, his martial arts weren't as good as hers. Mr. Duan's solitary yang finger has also opened my eyes. Tai's Ho smiled slightly. Let me introduce you to. This is the constellation deity, Senior Ding, and this is the head of the 4 great evildoers, Mr. Duan. Both of them had already guessed each other's origins, so when they heard He Tiesho's introduction, they had a as expected expression on their faces. Both of you have unparalleled martial arts. Originally, either of you would be more than enough to deal with the indigo phoenix, but I know that even a lion uses its full strength to fight a rabbit. That's why I invited both of you at the same time, just in case. I hope the two of you won't be offended. He Tais Ho bowed delicately, and Yoon Jong-hee, who was watching from the side, was stunned. Although this woman had lost an arm, it still couldn't hide her natural charm. Ding Chunxiu nodded slightly and thought to himself, "Anyway, as long as you give me that ice silkworm, I'll invite a few people for you." Duan Yanqing had the same thought. His martial arts were unparalleled in the world, and he had the help of the other three evildoers. He also had the trump card of Western Xia's Class 1 Hull, Paralyzing Wind of Sorrow. Naturally, he didn't need to worry that old Monster Ding would cause any changes. "Little girl, what's your name? I saw you casually throw the poisonous snake as a hidden weapon just now. I think you have great potential in training poisonous creatures." When she saw that the two of them were silent, He Tais Ho turned around and looked at Zhong Ling, who was hiding behind her. It turned out that after the battle in 10,000 Tribulations Valley, Zhong Ling had always been afraid of the four evildoers. When she saw that Ding Chunxiu could throw poisonous creatures with just a wave of his hand, she knew that he was definitely not a good person. As for He Tais Ho, even though the iron hook in her left hand was rather frightening, she was full of smiles and seemed to be the kindest person among them. Hence, Zhong Ling instinctively hid behind her. "Big sister, my name is Zhong Ling. I've liked to raise poisonous snakes and ferrets since I was young. After more than 10 years, I seem to be able to communicate with them." Zhong Ling and Yuxiu, that's a good name indeed. Your name is as beautiful as you are. When He Tais Ho heard this, she was overjoyed. Zhong Ling was born with the potential to be a beast tamer. If she could train her, her future would definitely be limitless. "Little sister, are you willing to be my disciple? I'll teach you more skills so that you won't be bullied by some bad people in the future." Once she finished speaking, she cast a sidelong glance at Yoon Jong-hee. Zhong Ling was most afraid of Yoon Jong-hee. When she saw that even his boss, Duan Yanqing, was slightly respectful to He Tais Ho, she quickly agreed. "Disciple Zhong Ling greets master. Congratulations on taking in a good disciple, Cult Master He. But we should head to the headquarters of Five Venoms as soon as possible." When Ding Chunxiu thought of the legendary ice silkworm, he felt an itch in his heart. Chapter 174. It's not my fault that I was born tone deaf. Song Qingshu's helpless expression revealed a hint of a smile. He thought of a story from his past life. In his past life, Song Qingshu had a friend who met a drowning child when he was playing at West Lake in Hangzhou. He jumped into the lake without a care for his own safety, only to remember that he did not know how to swim. In the end, a lady who was passing by jumped in and saved him and the child. To thank the lady for saving his life, he treated the lady to a meal. After getting to know her, he begged her to teach him how to swim. The lady was impressed by his willingness to risk his life to save the child, so she agreed. However, Song Qingshu's friend was so untalented that he could not learn no matter how hard he tried. In the end, it took him 2 months to barely learn how to swim. During this time, the lady taught him how to swim step by step. It was inevitable that they would have physical contact, and, as they taught, they developed feelings for each other. Later, when Song Qingshu attended his wedding, the groom said the truth after drinking. It turned out that he had learned it in the first week, but he pretended that he did not learn it in order to stay with the lady. When Song Qingshu and the rest laughed at the bride smiled and said, "I knew he was pretending. What a pair of cheating lovers." Song Qingshu could not help but curse as he recalled it. Looking at Dongfang Mushue's slender figure, he thought, "He's smart, but I'm not stupid." The two of them walked towards the Five Venoms sect's main altar. Seeing that Dongfang Mushue did not ask for directions, Song Qingshu asked in confusion, "Sister, have you been to the Five Venoms sect before?" "I've been there before. That's why I'm on good terms with Indigo Phoenix." Dongfang Mushue recalled an old incident and still felt her face burning. It turned out that when Dongfang Mushue visited the Five Venoms sect as the sect leader, Indigo Phoenix fell in love with her devilishly handsome temperament. The Meow family's ladies had always been bold in their pursuit of love. One night, Indigo Phoenix took off all her clothes and ran to her room with only a thin blanket wrapped around her. She made Dongfang Mushua, who had always been cold and dignified, flustered. Indigo Phoenix inadvertently found out that the sect leader of the Sun Moon sect was actually a lady, and her face turned pale with fright. According to Dongfang Mushua's usual style, she would definitely kill anyone who found out about this secret, even if the other party was a sect leader. However, when she saw the pitiful look on Indigo Phoenix's face, she thought that Indigo Phoenix had fallen in love with her. Her heart softened and she let her go. The Indigo Phoenix was so grateful that she treated Dongfang Mushua very affectionately. The two of them were like sisters in private. Then, the outside world started to spread rumors that the Indigo Phoenix had become the lover of the Dongfang sect leader. As they entered the territory of the Five Poison sect, Dongfang Mushua's face darkened when she saw the corpses of the Five Poison sect disciples strewn all over the place. Something happened to the Indigo Phoenix. It seems there are disciples from other sects as well. Song Qing-shu observed his surroundings. The attire of the Five Venoms sect members was very distinct and easy to recognize. The other people's attire was obviously the style of the Central Plains. Let's hurry to the main altar. I hope we can make it in time. Dongfang Mushua looked into the distance with an anxious expression. But your martial arts. Chapter 172. The Great Demon Among Demons Martial. Song Qing-shu did not finish his sentence, but it was obvious what he wanted to say. I don't care about ordinary people. Dongfang Mushua grabbed Song Qing-shu's shoulder and flew towards the main altar. Soon, the two of them arrived at a forest. The forest was so dense that the sunlight could not pass through. The smog made the atmosphere very oppressive. Dongfang Mushua's voice rang in Song Qing-shu's ears. The Five Poison sect is mysterious because most of the martial artists from the Central Plains who want to explore are blocked by the Heartless Ridge. Not only is the forest dense like a maze, but there are also poisonous insects and ferocious beasts everywhere. There's also a deadly miasma that can't be found anywhere. Ordinary people from the Jianghu will definitely die if they barge in. The forest is like a maze. Can't we just fly to the top of the tree and find the way out? Song Qing-shu was stunned. He could not help but think of the Taohua Island's Chimendunjia. Could this thing be so magical? Have you forgotten about the miasma in the forest? Dongfang Mushua explained. All the arrays of the Chimendunjia are surrounded by clouds and mist. If you fly to the top of the tree, you will only see a vast expanse of whiteness. You won't be able to see the way out. Let's just burn it, Song Qing-shu said gloomily. Putting aside the fact that the weather in Yunnan is so humid, you might not be able to ignite the trees in the forest. Even if you do, Dongfang Mushua said with a smile, you will probably suffocate to death in such a large forest. It's not difficult to get out of the maze. If you run into a dead end, turn around and walk backward. If you run into a fork in the road, turn right or turn left, and you'll be able to get out. In his previous life, Song Qing-shu had played the Legend of Sword and Fairy, so he didn't think that arrays were scary. Instead, he was concerned about another problem. If the Heartless Ridge is as powerful as you say, why did the enemies barge in so easily? If I'm not wrong, it must be He Tai's-ho, the traitor of the Five Poison cult, who led the outsiders in. Dongfang Mushua said in a low voice after they got out of the Heartless Ridge. The two of them quickened their pace and passed through the Sacred Beast Pool and the Ding Mountain Waterfall. The Zhu Rong Godly Temple, the headquarters of the Five Poison cult, finally appeared not far away. Inside the Zhu Rong Godly Temple, Indigo Phoenix and Chu Fian stood side by side. They looked at He Tai's-ho and the others who were approaching them with a serious expression. Indigo Phoenix scolded angrily. He Tai's-ho, in order to seize the position of the cult master, you actually revealed the cult's secret to outsiders. Do you know that this is a great crime of having thousands of snakes devouring your heart? Indigo Phoenix, you don't have to act like a cult master in front of me. The position of the cult master should have belonged to me. Back then, when I wasn't around, you seized the position of the cult master. That's also a crime of having thousands of snakes devouring your heart. Hitaizo stepped out from the crowd and smiled. She was in a good mood now that she had victory in her hands. Indigo Phoenix sneered. 2 generations of Sanuses from the He family were trapped by love. One of them lost the 5 poison treasures for Long Tian, and the other one was even worse. For the sake of the Golden Snake Gentleman, Xia Shui, she turned the 5 poison cult upside down. She was almost removed from the martial arts world. With that in mind, how would the people in the cult dare to let a woman from the He family become the cult master? Looking at it now, your He family's women are all full of affection after all. Seed, I heard that your lover, Yuan Qingji, was killed by the cult master Dongfang. You decided to betray the cult to avenge him, right? Chapter 175. Other than He Taizo, Yunzhong, he was probably the most eager to fight. He was drooling at the sight of Indigo Phoenix's fair skin, large breasts, and slender waist. He looked at He Taizo and thought to himself, are all the women of the Miao family so flirtatious? Seeing the silence in the room, he said with a smile, Leader you snatched the meat from my mouth. How about you compensate me this time? Zhong Ling, who was at the side, saw Yun Zhongyi's shifty eyes looking at her as he spoke, so she subconsciously shrunk behind He Taizo. He Taizo patted her little hand and said with a smile, Our cult master Lan is not only flirtatious, but she's also covered in poison. Can Misty handle her? As long as it is a woman, I guarantee that she will want to die and enjoy herself so much that she will forget about home and home. Yun Zhongyi's words made all the women present blush and curse in their hearts. Chu Fian angrily rebuked, Duan Yanqing, Ding Chunxiu, how dare you interfere with the sun-moon sex matters? Aren't you afraid that Leader Dongfang will pay a visit in the future? Ding Chunxiu and Duan Yanqing had a high opinion of Dongfang Bubi, but the most important thing in Jianghu was their reputation. If others knew that Dongfang Bubi's name could scare them away, then they would not be able to stay in Jianghu anymore. Thus, they could only bite the bullet and say, no matter how powerful Leader Dongfang is, he can't control the Western Xia's Class 1 Hall. That's right. Dongfang Bubi's Sunflower Treasure Book is powerful, but my transformation technique is not to be trifled with. Is that so? At this moment, a cold snort came from outside the hall. Ding Chunxiu and Duan Yanqing felt their hearts skip a beat. They looked up in surprise and saw 2 young men walking in. One was dressed in red and had a devilish smile on his handsome face. The other was dressed in green and had a wooden sword on his back. He also looked elegant. It's you? Yunzhong, he saw Song Qingshu's expression change and quickly whispered in Duan Yanqing's ear. Leader, Master, Indigo Phoenix, and Chu Fian were overjoyed to see Dongfang Muxue. Dongfang Bubi? When Ding Chunxiu and the 4 evil men heard this, they felt their skins crawl, and they instinctively took a step back. Itiesho's face was also stark pale. She had not expected that Dongfang Bubi would appear here. Star Constellation Old Monster, you sure talk big. I would like to experience your transformation technique. Dongfang Muxue walked towards the main seat in the main hall as if there was no one else around. The 4 evildoers and Ding Chunxiu avoided her. Indigo Phoenix invited her to the seat reserved for the leader of the 5 Venom sect. Ding Chunxiu groaned inwardly. He could only smile sheepishly and say, Cult Master Dongfang, you must be joking. How can my art of transformation be compared to Cult Master's Sunflower Treasure Book? I'm only here to exchange pointers with Cult Master Lan on how to use poison. Oh, Dongfang Muxue reclined on the seat and said calmly, since you all have the guts to interfere in the internal affairs of the Sun-Moon sect, don't even think of stepping out of this door alive today. Song Qingshu, who was at the side, secretly broke out in cold sweat. Dongfang Muxue was suffering from internal injuries. She could only use 10 to 20% of her martial arts at most. She might not be able to handle either Ding Chunxiu or Duan Yanqing, let alone all of them at once. However, He also understood Dongfang Mushue's plan. It was not in Dongfang Bubi's character to admit defeat. If the other party became suspicious and noticed Dongfang Mushue's injuries, the two of them would not be able to escape. It was better to use empty threats to scare the other party into not acting rashly. Suddenly, he noticed that Yi Ernyang's hand seemed to be moving behind her back. Song Qingshu was shocked. He quickly stepped forward and said, "Yi Ernyang, you don't have to secretly release the sorrowful, paralyzing wind. If the Five Venoms sect can't even deal with this little poison, we could just close down. On the other hand, you have to be careful of that old freak Ding." Duan Yanqing and the others were shocked. They didn't expect that their trump card, the sorrowful, paralyzing wind, was also within their expectation. Seeing that the other party was prepared, they quickly signaled Yi Ernyang to cover the mouth of the bottle to prevent Ding Chunqiu's men from being poisoned, which would reduce the combat strength of their side. "Yun Zhonghe, I let you go last time. I didn't expect you to be so unrepentant. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning if you keep your oath?" Song Qingshu turned his head and stared at Yun Zhonghe. "Ha! I was careless last time. I won't fall into your trap this time." Yun Zhonghe laughed dryly. Everyone present could hear that he was putting on a brave front. "So it's Song Xiaoxia who defeated Chong Su and the Five Mountain Alliance Master on the Jade Emperor Peak. Seeing you today, you are indeed a young hero." Duan Yanqing groaned inwardly. He had seen the martial arts of Chong Su and Zhuo Lenshan. Although they were not as good as him, they were not far from each other. Since Song Qingshu could defeat them so easily, his martial arts must be above his. One Dongfang Bubi was enough to make people feel hopeless. Now, there was another peerless master. Duan Yanqing felt that this day, next year, might become the anniversary of his death. However, he was a peerless master after all. Knowing that there was no way out, he stirred up the ferocity in his heart. He secretly circulated his martial arts and was ready to fight to the death. Ding Chunqiu noticed Duan Yanqing's expression and also had an estimation of Song Qingshu's strength. He thought, "I didn't expect that there is such a master in the young generation of the Central Plains besides North Xiaofeng and South Muro. Sect Master Dongfang, I want to ask you for a favor. How about letting these people go?" Song Qingshu noticed the ferocity in Duan Yanqing's eyes. He turned to Dongfang Mushue and said with a smile. Dongfang Mushue saw that Song Qingshu did not need any hints to cooperate with her. The show of pretending to be a tiger to eat a pig was quite interesting. She quickly held back her laughter and said in a dignified manner, "Why? Sect Master, you must know that His Majesty has sent me to set up an organization to recruit the masters of the Jianghu. Unfortunately, all the people I've recruited are small fries. They're no real masters. Old Monster Ding and Mr. Duan are both masters of a region. If you can join the organization, I believe His Majesty will be overjoyed. What do you think?" Song Qingshu had already turned to look at Ding and Duan when he said the last sentence. Chapter 173. Pretending to be a tiger to eat a pig. I am already serving the first-class hall of Western Xia. How can I be indecisive? Duan Yanqing snorted coldly. However, he keenly sensed that the situation had taken a turn for the better. He temporarily put aside the thought of fighting with his life on the line. "I'm used to being free. I'm not used to being someone's slave." Ding Chunqiu narrowed his eyes and leisurely fanned himself with the goose feather fan in his hand. If the two were not worried about Dongfang Bubi, they would have attacked him a long time ago after hearing what Song Qingshu said. It turned out that Dongfang Bubi had gone to the Misty Peaks Vulture Palace and the Western Xia Imperial Palace to search for the Northern Underworld Divine Technique. There, he had fought with Heavenly Mountain Tong Lao and Li Qiushui. As a disciple of the Carefree faction, Ding Chunqiu naturally knew how abnormal the martial arts of his two martial uncles were. Seeing that they were defeated by Dongfang Bubi, he understood that he really had no chance against Dongfang Bubi. Chapter 176. Both of you are grandmasters of your respective sections. How could Song Mao overestimate himself and restrict your freedom? For example, Cult Master Dongfang is also one of my subordinates. Do you think I will order him around like an ordinary subordinate? If you join the stick department, you could be hired as a guest like Cult Master Dongfang. You won't be under the control of the stick department. Only when the stick department needs help, you can decide whether to help according to your own situation. Of course, every time you help, the stick department will not treat you unfairly, Song Qingshu explained. Ding Chunxiu was full of doubt. Hee, is there such a good thing? But the Sea of Constellations is thousands of miles away from your Manchurian land. What's the use of recruiting me? Song Qingshu answered. To be honest, old immortal, the Manchurian Qing and the Mongolians are in stalemate. Many sects in the western region have surrendered to the Mongolians, such as the Bloodblade School and Lingxiao City. My country has no power over there, so His Majesty ordered me to think of ways to expand my power in the western region. As for Mr. Duan, Song Qingshu turned to Duan Yanqing and said, the Western Xia and the Mongolians have been fighting for years. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. My country's king has long planned to ally with the Western Xia. If Mr. Duan holds the important position of Class 1 Hall and the stick department at the same time, you will definitely become the most important link between the two countries. Why not? Seeing Duan Yanqing's expression change, Song Qingshu decided to add fuel to the fire. The stick department is best at gathering information, so I know a thing or two about Mr. Duan's request. With the help of the stick department, it won't be difficult for Mr. Duan to restore your former identity and take back what you deserve. In the past, the treacherous courtier Yang Yizhen had rebelled. As the crown prince, Duan Yanqing had been hunted down by his enemies and ended up in such a miserable state. The throne had also fallen into the hands of Duan Zhengming's faction. This was the biggest regret in Duan Yanqing's life. When he heard Song Qingshu mention this matter, a ferocious glint flashed across his eyes. Fine. After I return to Western Xia, I'll report the alliance to His Majesty. As long as His Majesty agrees, I'll join the alliance. Ding Chunxiu didn't expect that Duan Yanqing would give in just like this. He knew that it would be difficult for him to escape this calamity by relying on his own strength. So he made a prompt decision and said, since Prince Song sincerely invites me, this old man will respectfully accept. It just so happens that the Bloodblade sect has always been at odds with the Xingqiu sect, so it's not difficult for me to help you restrain them. Even though a long time seemed to have passed, from the moment Dongfang Bubi and Duan Yanqing appeared to the moment Ding Chunxiu and Duan Yanqing switched sides, only the time it takes for an incense stick to burn had passed. By the time He Taizhou registered what had happened, the situation was already over. She could be considered a dragon among men, so she made a prompt decision and called out to her clansmen, let's go. Ding Chunxiu and Duan Yanqing looked at each other and nodded. They then reached out and called out to He Taizhou and his people, Cult Master Dongfang, Prince Song, we've joined the Stickler sect, but we haven't done anything. We're truly ashamed. Today, we'll take He Taizhou as a greeting gift. I hope you won't take offense. Young miss, leave quickly. There was no lack of loyal people in the He family. When they saw that the situation was not good, they immediately sacrificed their lives to hold Ding Chunxiu and Duan Yanqing back. He Taizhou gritted her teeth and steeled her heart. He Taizhou ran. When he saw the He family's disciples blocking his way, Ding Chunxiu circulated his art of transformation and pounced on them. As soon as He Taizhou's subordinates came into contact with him, they immediately withered up and died a horrible death. Duan Yanqing took the opportunity to tap his metal staff against the ground. He moved past everyone and struck He Taizhou's back with his single yang finger. He Taizhou didn't dare to stop. He took the attack head-on and spat out a mouthful of blood. He borrowed the force and dashed out of the hall. Duan Yanqing grinned and chased after He Taizhou. Song Qingshu and Dongfang Mushua looked at each other and smiled. They watched the fight quietly. Cult Master, should I go after He Taizhou? Indigo Phoenix asked. Dongfang Mushua shook her head. She was strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. Even though she managed to scare them with her bravado, she couldn't guarantee that she wouldn't reveal any flaws later. She needed Indigo Phoenix to look after her. He Taizhou was running for his life in the Heartless Ridge. He felt Duan Yanqing getting closer and closer. He couldn't help but feel hopeless. He smiled bitterly. I didn't expect this cripple to run so fast. He turned around and decided to fight with his life on the line. Duan Yanqing was flying in the air when he suddenly felt a scorching finger force coming toward his face. He quickly raised his Damascus steel staff in front of him. With a bang, Duan Yanqing's wrist went numb, and he slid a few meters back. Looking at the finger mark on the Damascus steel staff, Duan Yanqing was shocked. Single Yang finger? Taizo turned around in shock and saw a skinny scholar walking out slowly. Mr. Duan, you can tell me what grade my single Yang finger has reached. If Song Qing Shu and Icy Snow were here, they would definitely exclaim in surprise. This scholar was Murong Jingwe. It's you? Duan Yanqing's eyes focused, and his face was full of caution. I didn't expect your single Yang finger to have reached the upper 3 grades. It's only a matter of time before you break through to the 2nd grade. The scholar spread his hands and said helplessly, using this kind of attitude to treat your savior is too disappointing. Duan Yanqing sneered. You saved my life back then, and I taught you Dali's Duan clan's secret single Yang finger. We don't know each other anymore. It turned out that when Duan Yanqing was being hunted down and was on the verge of death, he thought about how he had become a cripple and how there was no hope of restoring his country. So he closed his eyes and waited for death. As a result, Duan Jinan's concubine, Dao Baifeng, couldn't stand Duan Zhengchuan's womanizing. She fell into a mental barrier and decided to find the ugliest, dirtiest, and crippled man in the world to defile her noble concubine's delicate body to take revenge on Duan Zhengchuan. Coincidentally, she saw Duan Yanqing by the roadside and took the initiative to take off her clothes and have a night of pleasure with him. She didn't know that her crazy act of jealousy had reignited Duan Yanqing's fighting spirit and established a terrifying enemy for Dali's Duan clan. However, even though Duan Yanqing had regained his fighting spirit and was no longer afraid of death, his mind couldn't be healed. His injuries were too severe. Just as he was about to take his last breath, Murong Jingwei appeared in front of him and saved Duan Yanqing with the single Yang finger. Duan Yanqing had no choice but to agree. But for thousands of years, he had taken advantage of the situation. This was the first time that the Duan-style absolute art had been leaked. He deeply hated Murong Jingwei for taking advantage of him, so he had never been grateful to him for saving his life. Fine. Let's not talk about the past for now, but I'm taking this woman with me today. Being glanced at by Murong Jingwei, Taizo felt chills all over her body. However, she knew that staying behind would only lead to death, so she might as well be saved by this person. A murderous intent arose in Duan Yanqing's heart. Let's see if your martial arts are as good as your medical skills. With that, he swung his staff and attacked. Murong Jingwei didn't dodge. He stretched out his hand and tapped the tip of the staff with a finger. Duan Yanqing couldn't move an inch forward. Misty, are you just going to stand there like an idiot and watch us compete with our inner force? Well, he can't move. Give him a few poisonous needles. There was some sweat on Murong Jingwei's temples, but he had a relaxed expression as he spoke. Duan Yanqing turned pale with fright. He quickly withdrew his staff and retreated. In an instant, he had suffered serious internal injuries. Not daring to stay, he hastily fled into the distance. Thank you, benefactor, for saving me. Taizo let out a long sigh of relief and stepped forward to thank him. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.